Katrin's voice rang out. She had changed her mind. She would become engaged to Duke de Bridge after all. So Nerys should give the position of fiancé back to her. Nerys froze in bewilderment at her sister's words. What was this? Why did her sister suddenly want to take back the position of fiancé now? What on earth was going on? A few days earlier, that afternoon, at the ducal estate, the Count had said to his daughter, Nerys, you will become engaged to Duke de Bridge. She was startled by her father's words and, as if she did not understand, asked back softly, Nerys. The Count explained, the position of Duchess suits you perfectly. The kingdom is at war, so it is best to marry quickly. Hearing those words from the Count, she clasped her hands together in fear and tried to remain calm. The Count continued, when you get there, don't behave foolishly. And before he could finish, the frightened Nerys cut in, wait, father. The Duke startled at his daughter's voice. Nerys hesitantly asked again, wasn't this marriage arrangement meant for Sister Katrin? Her eyes reddened sadly. I only just came of age, and I'm supposed to enter the academy soon. You already agreed to that, father. Seeing Nerys resist his will, the Count shot up angrily, slammed his hand on the table, and shouted, enough, you're annoying. Pointing at Nerys, he roared, the kingdom is at war, and you're still talking about the academy? Do you think marriage comes easily in times like these? He's a duke. A duke. His harsh criticism frightened Nerys. You do nothing all day, and yet you've been given a position like this. You should know what incredible good fortune that is. He calmed himself, sat back down, and closed his eyes. I only allowed you to attend the academy in the first place, so you could help with the family's business. But that has had to stop now. Nerys' hands trembled as she clasped them together at her father's cold words. The Count looked straight at her. Listen carefully, Nerys. As if understanding his meaning, a servant respectfully brought over the documents. As he wrote, he said, our family has been in a difficult situation lately. The Duke, who understands our circumstances well, proposed this marriage first. Not only is he asking for no dowry, he has also promised substantial financial support for our business. He coaxed Nerys and asked, do you intend to pass up such a good opportunity? Then he began appealing to emotion. Yes, this engagement was originally meant for Katrin, but sending your sister to the north would be far too harsh. Do you want to send your frail older sister to a place like that? Hearing that, she trembled even more. He continued, forcing Nerys with his words. Besides, this proposal is beneficial for you as well. You, who have always been a burden on the family, can finally be of some use to us all. So stop complaining and quietly prepare to go north. Hearing those words, she felt as if she had fallen into an icy abyss. After stepping outside, the cold door shut behind her and she leaned against it for support. She wandered dazedly, her thoughts drifting into emptiness, while the servants avoided Nerys as though she were some evil omen. They began whispering among themselves. Oh my, is it true about Lady Nerys' engagement? Well, with rumors like that, it must be true. Who exactly is that man? They continued gossiping about the Duke. He's known as the Ghost Duke, the infamous de Bridge. I heard he rarely attends social gatherings, and even when he does, he always wears a strange mask, so no one knows what he looks like. And besides that, the Duke always gives off such a terrifying presence that everyone tries hard to avoid him. Not only that, his relationship with His Majesty is terrible. They say the reason he was made to lead the front lines in battle was because the king wanted to get rid of him. Having to marry a man like that, Lady Nerys is so pitiful. A maid quietly warned, shh, don't say that. In any case, this has nothing to do with us. Nerys saw that beyond the door, now flung open wide, servants were packing up her things, and she stared in shock. In a panic, she cried out, what are you doing? Grabbing a maid's arm in fear, Nerys asked, where are you taking my belongings? Knowing Nerys was not valued in the family, the maid disdainfully shook off her hand. The master ordered us to prepare your luggage in advance, since you will be leaving for the north first thing tomorrow morning, my lady. Nerys recoiled from the maid's forceful movement, panicked and unable to believe her ears. That can't be. So soon, fear welled up in her heart. She had only just heard about the engagement. Nerys' voice went hoarse as she tried to stop the servants. Please stop for a moment. I need to speak with father again. From behind her, Katrin called out Nerys. She asked gently, why are you raising your voice and looking as if you're about to cry? Nerys turned around. Sister Katrin. Katrin lightly stroked Nerys' face and comforted her. You must remember that a noble lady remains elegant at all times and in all places. You should always show the dignity befitting a noble. Then she coldly told the servants, leave us for a moment. The maids bowed respectfully in fear. One of them bravely spoke up, "But my lady, we have not finished packing yet." Katrin shot her an irritated, icy glance. "Did you not hear me? I said leave." Frightened, the servants hurried out. "Why yes, my lady," she muttered. "Why must I repeat myself twice for you to understand?" Katrin took Neree's hand and guided her to a chair. "Come, sit down here," she began. "Why are you making such a fuss today? You aren't usually like this." Nerese spoke softly. "I truly don't understand why I have to become engaged. Wasn't Duke de Bridge discussing marriage with you?" Katrin stood there and listened to everything. Nerese continued, "Sister, could you persuade father?" Without letting her finish, Katrin lifted her chin and cut her off. "Nerese," she smiled and asked back, "then should I be the one to go?" Katrin revealed her true face. Slowly, she removed her hand from Nerese's face. "Listen carefully. As you know, I am meant to become the flower of high society, and yet I should go to some rustic place like the North? Do you think that makes any sense?" Nerese stammered. But sister, I still have to go to the academy." Katrin took her hand. "I know, but there is an academy in the North as well, isn't there?" Nerese replied. "But there, the magic DP?" Before she could finish, Katrin cut her off with contempt. "As if you were going to study magic or anything." She forcefully let go of Nerese's hand. "Try to understand yourself properly. Do you really think someone with no talent at all like you could study magic?" Katrin turned coldly and walked toward the door. "For someone like you, becoming a duchess should be more than good enough. Isn't that a blessing instead? Try charming the Duke. Perhaps he'll take a liking to you and send you to the academy in the capital." Nerese sat still, not daring to protest. When she reached the door, Katrin turned back and gave Nerese a cold smile. "Though I suppose that will be difficult, since you're so useless. Well then, do your best." The door shut, leaving her sitting silently in the darkness. Tears began to fall one by one. She cried for her weakness and for her fate. A week later, on a narrow road through the forest, Nerese sat in the carriage and sighed to herself. I can't believe I've had to ride in this carriage for an entire week. The North really is far away." She patted her cheeks to encourage herself. "No, Nerese, don't think negatively. No matter what, I made it to the Duke's residence. This is a good chance to start over. Even if this is an arranged marriage, I won't think of giving up. This is my chance to escape the family that mocked and looked down on me." The carriage stopped at the entrance, and she stepped down with her luggage. "From this moment on, I will change. I will leave behind the old self who was ignored like a fool. Starting today, I will live as a new person." The door opened, and ahead of her was a girl reaching out toward the flowers. "Oh, how beautiful!" Nerese's eyes widened. She could not believe that person was here. Katrin admired them. "I never expected there to be flowers this lovely in the North." She cheerfully ran over to Nerese. "Oh, you finally arrived. You're late, Nerese." Nerese went cold with shock. Staring at Katrin, she asked stiffly, "Sister Katrin, why are you here?" Katrin said with false sweetness, "You must be tired from the long journey. Sit down here. This will be the room you'll use while you're here, and don't go outside at night in this place. All right?" Nerese was confused. Katrin kept talking on and on. "It's quite a nice room, isn't it? Were you surprised?" "I was surprised too. It's prettier than I expected." Then her younger sister suddenly asked, "Sister, what exactly are you doing here?" Katrin calmly answered, "What do you mean? What am I doing?" "I'm introducing you to this wonderful ducal residence." Unable to endure Katrin's fake act any longer, Nerese shouted, "Wonderful? You said the North was unbearably rustic. Why are you suddenly praising this place now?" Katrin looked impatient as she turned back and said, "I've changed my mind. I will become engaged to Duke de Bridge. So give the position of fiancé back to me, Nerese." Nerese could only stare in shock. Helplessly, she said, "An engagement is not something to be treated like a joke. In wartime, an engagement is recognized through a marriage contract written on magic paper because it cannot be altered. And my name is already written in that marriage contract. So this engagement cannot be canceled," Nerese said. Katrin gave a faint smile and said, "I'll show you specially. So keep your mouth shut and watch carefully." Then she recounted the greeting she had given the butler. "Hello, I am Katrin Tapana, the one who is meant to become engaged to Duke Ian de Bridge. I was wondering whether the engagement contract has already been delivered." "What? My younger sister Nerese's name is written on the contract?" Watching her performance, Nerese could only stand there blankly. Katrin continued, "Oh dear, it seems my father made a drunken mistake. As the eldest daughter of Count Topana's house, I sincerely apologize. And my younger sister Nerese will be arriving here shortly." In wartime, she was simply very worried after hearing that her older sister was about to become engaged. Please don't concern yourself. Nerys will return home in 2 days. Katrin said casually, I explained everything to the butler yesterday, so you should help me and follow this story as well. Nerys shouted, do you think the Duke will believe something that absurd? If you do this, our family will become the laughingstock of society. She said firmly, the Duke would never break off an engagement for such a ridiculous reason. I won't let our family become everyone's joke either. You never even wanted this marriage in the first place. Katrin suddenly turned and squeezed Nerys' arm so hard that she cried out in pain. Isn't that why I'm asking for your help? She said, tightening her grip even more. Who do you think I'm suffering because of? If I could, I'd turn back time. She looked at Nerys with hateful eyes. But what can I do? Right now is the perfect timing. Nerys recoiled, trembling in fear beneath the pressure from her sister. Stop talking and help me. That place was mine to begin with. Katrin stepped closer, giving off a chilling, murderous aura. Trembling, Nerys asked sister, what happened to you? Why are you suddenly acting like this? Katrin only clenched her teeth and frowned. She let go and said, I am sorry. This situation has me terribly shaken. But Nerys, if you listen to me, this will be best for everyone. Then she turned away coldly. Katrin continued, Father has already agreed to this, and to your academy admission as well. So all you need to do is go back home. Or do you have ambitions of becoming a duchess? I'm sure that's not it, little sister. With that, she left, leaving Nerys sitting in the room in confusion. Once again, she sank in a deep thought. I thought it was all over, but even after leaving home, my family still won't let me go. At this rate, will I really never be able to escape them? I don't know. I don't want to think about it anymore. She closed her eyes and let out a sigh. Right now, I'm too exhausted. The scene shifted to a mansion glowing with mysterious violet light. Inside the room, the back of a young man could be seen, draped in an elegant fur cloak. He turned and said, You have worked hard today, sir. His face radiated cold authority, a fierce aura that would intimidate anyone who saw him. Butler Norman spoke up. My Lord Duke, has something happened? Norman, he replied. The butler answered, A problem has arisen regarding the engagement with Count Topana's family. They say the fiancé's name was written incorrectly. He looked puzzled. The scene shifted to Duke de Bridge's study, where he was intently reading a sheet of paper. On it was written, The fiancé is Nerys Topana. This engagement contract was the result of a drunken mistake. The eldest daughter had already accepted the engagement beforehand. Forget it. It doesn't matter who it is anyway. As he spoke, he tossed the paper onto the desk. What a disappointing family. The young Duke sighed in exasperation. Suddenly, a sound came from outside the door. What was that? It didn't sound like Norman knocking, nor could it be another servant. Could it be one of Count Topana's daughters? Norman had clearly told them not to wander around the castle at night. What a family with no understanding of manners. He quickly picked up a mask and put it on. Then he went to open the door. Let's see then. The face of that disappointing noble daughter. When he saw Nerys outside the door, he asked, What are you doing here? But Nerys simply stood there without answering. Hey, he called out louder. It seemed she was not in her right mind. The Duke scratched his head helplessly, then reached out and touched her forehead to check her temperature. He started to ask, What are you doing? But before he could finish, Nerys suddenly turned and looked at him with unfocused eyes. The Duke was greatly surprised. He wondered, was she sleepwalking? She climbed all the way to the 4th floor while still asleep. It's surprising she made it here without getting hurt. The problem is, how am I supposed to get her back to her room? He stepped closer to her. It can't be helped. Please forgive the impropriety. Then he picked her up. Nerys was still half asleep, but she seemed to sense something and tried to say something. The Duke told her, I'm taking you back to your room, so be still. Nerys answered in a very small voice, Yes. The Duke looked surprised and a little confused. He gazed at the beautiful face of the girl in his arms. Then he let out a breath. You're Nerys, aren't you? Yes. He thought. She answers even while half asleep. What an honor for me. Then he asked, You are my fiancé, aren't you? Yes. Your sister said this engagement was a mistake. Nerys stayed silent and gave no reply. He asked again, Do you not answer difficult questions? Yes. How clever. He smiled at her gently. Sleep well, Nerys. He laid her down on the warm bed and left. The sun rose, and the morning light shone through the window of Nerys' room. She slowly woke from a pleasant sleep. Nerys looked around in surprise and asked blankly, This place is right. I arrived at the Duke's residence yesterday, together with sister. Thinking back on their conversation, she could not help but wonder, Why did sister suddenly change her mind? She hated the idea of coming north so much. No, whatever the reason, it doesn't matter anymore. I won't go back home. Never. Her eyes turned resolute. The day I left home, I realized that as long as I belonged to Count Topana's family, I would have to live a life controlled by them. I would live as a tool, something they could throw away at any moment. I hate that. As she thought that, she went over, took the water pitcher, and poured water over her face as if trying to wash away everything from the past. No matter what happens with the engagement, it doesn't matter. This time, I won't follow my family's wishes. Absolutely not. She was filled with determination. After changing her clothes, Nerys went downstairs. The butler bowed respectfully to greet her. Suddenly, a voice rang out, "You're late, Nerys." She looked toward her older sister. Still putting on a false act, Katrin said, "Even if you're tired from the long journey, you must still observe proper etiquette, mustn't you? This is not our home. This is the castle of Duke de Bridge, my fiancé." Katrin smiled, as if issuing a threat. "Next time, be sure to arrive on time for breakfast." Ignoring her sister's words, Nerys sat down at the table. Katrin continued, "In any case, you will be leaving tomorrow. What a pity. We cannot stay together any longer here in the north. Once you return, I wish you success in enrolling at the academy." No, I will enroll in the Northern Academy. Katrin was startled. Nerys continued, "You said yourself that I could study at the academy in the north, so I looked into it as soon as I arrived. The Northern Academy has produced many famous scholars. It's quite close by, and I realized something. I truly want to study in such a wonderful place." She said firmly, "So I will stay here. You don't need to feel so sorry about it, sister." Katrin's face darkened. Suddenly, she smiled slyly. "Don't you want to study magic? That's the very reason you were so determined to enter the academy in the capital. That's why I worked so hard to persuade father. Is that all your passion for magic amounts to?" Hearing that, Nerys didn't know what to say. She encouraged herself. "Don't lose heart. You already expected this. Speak with confidence. Your thoughts, your position." Nerys gripped her dress tightly and told herself not to be afraid. She said, "My passion for magic will never fade, so I want to take this opportunity to learn many more things. The Northern Academy has so many fields of study that interest me. Sister, the North really is a wonderful place, isn't it?" Nerys smiled confidently. Katrin frowned angrily, slammed the table, and stood up. "What in the world is going on here?" Then suddenly a voice rang out. "That is a very wise decision." Both of them turned toward the voice. He said, "My apologies for overhearing while you were speaking." He introduced himself. "I am the butler, Norman." Hearing the young lady speak, I couldn't help but feel proud of the North. "Please forgive my intrusion." Nerys replied cheerfully, "It's all right, butler. Please, just call me Norman, Lady Topana," he said with a smile. Nerys replied, "Then I'll call you that. And you should feel comfortable as well, Norman." Katrin's face darkened. She was stunned, wondering, what the hell is this? That child who's always so timid suddenly. And why is the butler treating Nerys so well? Watching them smile and chat so warmly, she grew furious. If this keeps up, Nerys will steal it from me again. No, this time it's mine. My place. I won't let it be stolen like last time. She thought back on her past. Katrin Topana. Even my name is perfect. From the moment I was born, I was someone everyone was drawn to and loved. People loved calling me Lady Topana, a beautiful flower. But being called Lady Topana was not always a good thing. Nerys Topana, my younger sister. That girl was also called Lady Topana. From the moment that child was born, I knew at once. She was more frightening than the devil. Do you think I don't know you were born to take everything from me? I absolutely won't let you take it. Absolutely not. Could thoughts like those really belong to a little girl? One day, she proudly showed father the achievement she had earned. First place in the poetry recitation contest, Katrin Topana. "Haha, excellent work, my daughter," the count said with a laugh, praising her. Katrin said, "I did my very best for our family." "How can you think so deeply at such a young age?" he said happily, patting her head. Her father said, "I simply must give a gift to my lovely eldest daughter." The count slowly took out a present from his coat pocket. Katrin accepted it happily. "Father, a magic item with special power? It will save you when you're in danger. Always keep it with you." The count handed it to his daughter in good spirits, and Katrin received it with delight. "Wow, thank you, father." He continued, "I am truly pleased that my eldest daughter has been of help to the family." Unlike Nerys, he glanced toward his younger daughter and asked, "And you? Do you have nothing?" Nerys timidly stammered, On this test, I got a perfect score in mathematics. Before she could even finish, Katrin cut in. Father, I want to participate in this year's capital flower arrangement contest. Would that be possible? Their father immediately turned his attention to the older sister. Oh, of course. If you win first place, everyone will admire you when you make your debut in high society. As expected, my eldest daughter thinks broadly. Nerys, shy and crestfallen, could only stand there in disappointment. After her father left, Katrin's expression changed at once. She looked at Nerys with open disgust. "What are you staring blankly at?" she said, snatching away what Nerys was holding. 100 points in math? You worked so hard just to earn praise with something like this? How pitiful, Katrin said contemptuously. Nerys stammered, "Gee, give it back to me, sister." Katrin leaned close to Nerys' ear and said, "Let me give you some useful advice. Even if you come out on top in things like this, you'll still always be useless." As she spoke, she tore the test paper into pieces and threw them into the air. Nerys stood frozen in shock, too frightened to say a word. "Remember this advice, all right?" With that, she walked away, leaving Nerys collapsed on her knees in sorrow. Her sister Katrin's words kept echoing in her head. "See how capable your sister is? Even if you want what belongs to me, you'll never have it. I'll make that painfully clear to you, so just wait and see." But after that, I let Nerys steal everything from me. My misfortune began when I was engaged to Duke de Bridge. She recalled that sudden engagement. The fiancé was none other than me, Katrin Tapana. I was truly shocked by his sudden proposal. She smiled scornfully. I was already a refined young lady, a truly notable figure in the capital's high society. And I was supposed to marry the Phantom Duke, the man surrounded by strange rumors? Impossible. According to the rumors, he had fallen out of favor with the king and had been sent to the front lines. To soothe the king's anger, he intended to form a marriage alliance with a noble family in the capital. He had an outstanding record on the battlefield. She remembered her conversation with her father. He asked Katrin, "What do you think?" "I have many concerns." Though unwilling, Katrin said, "Considering the Duke's vast fortune, it's hard to refuse. We can't let that kind of money slip away so easily." Gritting her teeth, she searched for a way out. "But I can't be the one to get engaged. What should I do?" Then suddenly an idea flashed through her mind. That's right. Nerys can be the one to get engaged. My pitiful younger sister who always loses. This time I can get rid of that child I never wanted to see. Besides, Duke de Bridge might die in the upcoming war with the Western Kingdom. Rumors were spreading that he had been gravely wounded in the previous battle and was close to death. In that case, shouldn't we seize all his wealth before the Duke dies? The moment the Duke returns, we should rush the engagement contract. If the Duke dies, Nerys, as his wife, will have inheritance rights. If we manipulate it properly, all his wealth could become ours. This is an opportunity. Thinking that, she said to her father, "Then what about having Nerys become engaged to him?" Her father frowned and asked, "That useless child?" "Yes. If we do that, good things will come to our family in the future," Katrin said with a sly expression. "Trust me and do as I say." Her eyes were resolute. Since I resolved both the engagement issue and the Nerys issue, there should be no more obstacles in my life. My future will be filled with dazzling light. But was that really true? No. That choice was the greatest mistake of my life. We won the war. Long live, the people cheered. Long live the kingdom of Zidian. We acknowledge the merits of Duke Ian de Bridge, who led the war to victory. He has been awarded the Empire's first Hero's Medal. This time, our kingdom has become an empire, so His Majesty has said he wishes to maintain good relations with Duke de Bridge. Then we'll be able to see the Duke and Duchess often at social gatherings. How wonderful, Lady Tapana. Katrin turned pale. Good fortune always came to her younger sister, the Duchess de Bridge. With a face full of jealousy, she said, "Yes, that's right. I'm truly delighted as well." Around the party, people murmured excitedly, "Duke Ian de Bridge, and that is Nerys, Duchess de Bridge." Hearing that, Katrin froze. She turned to look that way, stunned. No, impossible. Are those two really Duke de Bridge and Nerys? Seeing them so happy together, she was overwhelmed with jealousy. Oh my, the Duke is nothing like the rumors at all. He truly has the striking looks of a sculpture. And the Duchess is so beautiful. She has such elegance and grace. People continued whispering among themselves. Hearing those words, Katrin crumbled. She staggered. They really are worthy of being the stars of tonight's ball. The crowd kept murmuring. Katrin quietly left, but inside, she had shattered. It was mine to begin with. That perfect man. That position, too. The place that drew everyone's admiration and envy. It had once been mine. I used to be the owner of everything. Everything was stolen by Nerys. She completely broke down. After Nerys stole everything from me, I fell into despair. I kept thinking about that dreadful day. I became ruined and drank every day. That despicable father secretly arranged behind my back to marry me off to an old marquis in the West in exchange for a huge sum of money. By the time I realized it, it was too late and I fell into despair. She broke down once more and thought, if this continues, I'll spend my entire life being controlled by that old man. I have to escape somehow. With that thought, she ran from the house, and as she ran, she thought about her misery. Nerys, this is all because of that devil-like creature. Because of that greedy younger sister, my life has been ruined like this. I will never let this go. Suddenly, Katrin slipped and fell straight off a cliff. As she screamed, she thought, what is this? Am I really going to die like this? No, I don't want to end this way. The necklace her father had once given her slipped free, and she begged, please, give me one more chance. Suddenly, the necklace emitted a golden light toward Katrin, as if it had heard her plea. Give me one more chance to take back everything that belongs to me from that devilish younger sister. And when Katrin opened her eyes, she was shocked, yet her heart was still black with hatred for Nerys. She thought, how arrogant. The one who stole everything from me in my previous life dares to stand against me? Strange. She was never this arrogant before. Why does she suddenly seem like a completely different person? Could it be that she knows I've returned? Holding the necklace in her hand, she thought, impossible. How could that fool ever know my secret? She smiled wickedly. She's just acting a little differently than usual, that's all. I was brought back to life by the blessing of this precious treasure, so the fact that I still have the advantage over Nerys hasn't changed. This time, I will definitely take everything. All of it is mine. I will never lose to someone like Nerys. The scene shifted to Nerys' room. She was sitting on her bed, reflecting. I am exhausted. I didn't expect lunch to drain me that much. She rested her face on her hand and sighed. Maybe it's because it was the first time I ever dared to oppose my sister. This is bad. Until the Duke returns, I'll have to keep fighting with her. Will I really be able to endure it until then? Suddenly, a voice came from outside the door. Lady Nerys, it's Emma. I've come to deliver a message from Lady Katrin. Nerys was startled. My sister? Could she still be angry about lunch? Nerys quickly went to open the door. When she cracked it open, she saw the maid standing there. She asked, what did she say? The maid coldly handed over a letter and said, the lady has written everything in this letter. You need only read it and send a reply. Nerys reached out and took it. What could it possibly be that required a letter? Then she opened it and read, to my younger sister, Nerys. At lunch today, I noticed that your conduct and manners were very poor. To correct those shortcomings, let us have breakfast together tomorrow. Even now, I must still teach you properly, so that when you meet the Duke, who came to propose to me, you won't embarrass me, correct? So make sure you come to breakfast tomorrow. From your older sister, who is always concerned for you. When she reached this point, Nerys froze. Nerys stood there with the letter open, reading it in silence. The hand holding the letter trembled uncontrollably. She thought to herself, is it because I talked back just a little today that she's acting like this again? Nerys frowned suspiciously. She sank into her thoughts. She really has always been like this. Ever since I was little, if I disobeyed her even slightly, she'd immediately run to tell father and mother, so they'd scold me. Images of being scolded by her father surfaced in her mind, along with Katrin's smug smile. Nerys continued thinking. She forced me to go to parties and deliberately made me commit mistakes, turning me into everyone's laughingstock. In the end, unable to bear those situations, I always had to apologize to her. She recalled herself kneeling and begging her sister Katrin for forgiveness, and the injustice of it all overwhelmed her. Even when I wasn't at fault, I thought it was all because I was too useless. Looking back now, it was all just her bullying. Fragments of memory shattered inside her before she returned to the present. Nerys looked up at the windows and thought, but because this isn't our home, I thought she wouldn't bully me here. I was too careless. Her lips trembled on their own. Then she firmly continued, but I won't endure it in silence like before. Absolutely not. Pulling herself from her thoughts, Nerys said, Emma, I will definitely attend breakfast tomorrow. Emma's face remained expressionless as she silently listened. With a resolute expression, Nerys added, Tell her that I am very much looking forward to tomorrow, and that I am happy to receive a lesson in etiquette from her." The scene shifted to another room. Duke Ian DeBridge had just finished bathing, droplets of water still clinging to his body. With one hand, he towel-dried his hair, and, as he did, he thought, "It seems the relationship between the Tapana sisters isn't very good." Then he said, "Sisters quarreling in someone else's castle. How pathetic." Hearing that, Norman spoke up at once. "I must say this, Your Grace." At the sound of his voice, the Duke lowered the towel and turned to look at him. Norman continued, "It seems the second young lady of the Tapana family is quite fond of our territory. Not only that, she said she intends to take the entrance examination for Callowy. From what I heard, she seems very interested in studying magic." He recalled how happy Nerys had looked then, smiling so brightly. Norman continued, "Once you officially return, perhaps you should meet with the second young lady." The Duke called Norman's name, cutting him off. In a cold voice, he said, "This engagement was only made out of necessity from the beginning. It has no deeper meaning than that. So don't place too much expectation on this engagement." Hearing that, Norman looked somewhat saddened. He lowered his head and replied, "Yes, I will remember that, Your Grace." Night fell. The Duke sat at his desk, surrounded by a pile of documents, pale moonlight falling across his large frame. His fingers gripped a pen as he rapidly filled the blank pages with writing. Suddenly, an odd sound was heard. He lifted his head, dark circles under his eyes, making him look utterly exhausted. He thought to himself, "This sounds like yesterday. Could it be?" He quickly stood and headed outside. He did not forget to put on his mask before leaving. When he reached the source of the sound, he was surprised. It really was her, Nerys. She was sleepwalking and couldn't hear what he was saying. She kept walking straight into the door, even though it was shut. Looking toward the stairs in the dim light, he thought, "I suspected it, but I didn't think it would really be true. I can't believe she came here again tonight while sleepwalking." Watching Nerys continue to bump into the door, he thought further, "Could it be that she's like this because I'm here? If so, that's a bit troublesome." He fell silent, somewhat worried. "Oh, whatever. I'll take her back to her room first and think about it later." Saying that, he rubbed his head. Before long, he had carried her back to her room and laid her on the bed. He gently pulled the blanket over her and thought, what a relief that she didn't wake up halfway this time. Looking at Nerys sleeping soundly, he thought, she's really the kind of girl who needs a lot of looking after. Then he turned to leave, not forgetting to think ahead for her sake. If this keeps happening, it'll only make things awkward for everyone. I should tell Norman before I return to the battlefield. He suddenly stiffened, his eyes widening. Nerys had grabbed his arm. Slowly, he turned back, thinking she had woken up. He was so nervous that sweat broke out on him. What is this? Has she woken up? He thought in alarm as he stared at her slender hand gripping his arm. Seeing that Nerys was still asleep, he felt as though he had been saved and let out a breath. It doesn't seem so. She's only dreaming, but she's even pulling me closer. That really startled me. He gently tried to remove her hand, but before he could pull free, he overthought it. Wait, I only brought her into her room. If I touch her now, will she wake up? If she wakes up, I'll have to explain the current situation. He pressed his lips together. Then both of us will be in trouble. The only choice is to wait. Thinking that, he sat down beside the bed and waited for her to let go. Watching Nerys sleep so peacefully, he thought, while I'm waiting, she'll probably start talking in her sleep again. And if she doesn't, then when she opens her eyes in the morning, I just need to disappear quickly. Outside the window was a mysterious night sky filled with countless glittering stars. His eyes began to close as well, intending to rest for just a moment, and she'll think it was all just a dream and let it go. Suddenly, Nerys said, "I don't like it," which startled him so much his eyes flew open. Nerys continued in a weak voice, "Please don't do this. Please, I know I was wrong." She gently pressed her head against his arm, hot tears rolling down her cheeks as she fearfully added, "Please forgive me. Kropka, sister, I'm sorry." He silently looked at her in confusion as Nerys cried and pleaded, "I was wrong, sister." Her behavior made him wonder why she was begging so desperately. Was it because of the quarrel Norman had mentioned earlier? He had thought it was just an ordinary argument between sisters. Her small fingers trembled non-stop as they clutched a bit of his clothing, pleading, "Sister, I know I was wrong." He gently took her hand and comforted her softly. "Calm down, Nerys. Right now, I'm the only one here. You don't need to apologize. It's all right. You didn't do anything wrong." His face was full of gentleness as he said it. "So don't be afraid." The moment he finished, her fingers let go of his clothes. Looking at her, he coaxed, "Sleep well, Nerys." The next day, an arm pulled back the cloth curtain and entered. Hartman, dressed impressively in armor, greeted him. "Please come in, Commander." That commander was none other than the Duke. As soon as he entered, he asked Hartman, "How was the enemy's situation last night?" Hartman immediately replied, "There was no unusual movement, sir." Unlike his gentle demeanor from yesterday, the Duke was now clad in imposing black armor. He said, "Good, then let's begin the strategy meeting." On a beautiful day, golden sunlight streamed through the glass windows, brightening the whole room. Nerys was carefully adjusting the pretty ribbon at her chest, as if silently strengthening her resolve. Looking at herself in the mirror, she softly said, "Hartman, does this look all right?" She gently smoothed her hair behind her ear. "Or should I put on a bit more makeup?" She was rather anxious, thinking, "It's been such a long time since I did my own makeup. I wonder if it looks all right." Then suddenly, a knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. A wave of sadness hit her. Emma had always been her maid at the Duke's residence. Emma's expressionless face surfaced in her mind. But ever since Sister Katrin arrived at the Duke's residence, Emma had immediately left her side and gone to serve her sister. Well, Emma had originally been Sister Katrin's maid back at home, so Nerys could understand why Emma had followed her. But still, that day, her expression was heavy with sadness. Then she slowly went to open the door and encouraged herself, "No, I mustn't think negatively anymore." With her hand on the doorknob, she cheered herself on. "I'm about to see Sister. I have to be strong." Then she quickly opened the door, still thinking she should imagine how her sister might react first, without noticing that the door had struck a maid passing by. A startled scream rang out. "Ah!" The maid fell to the floor, and a basket she had been carrying flew up, its contents scattering everywhere. Sitting on the ground, the maid cried, "Ow!" A small cloth had fallen over the maid's face, while Nerys panicked. The maid groaned, "Ah, that hurts. What did I bump into?" Nerys stammered, "Hey, are you all right?" The cloth slipped slightly to one side, and the maid hurriedly said, "I'm sorry, my lady. I wasn't watching where I was going." Hearing that, Nerys immediately rushed to her, took her by the shoulders, and anxiously said, "Why are you apologizing? You're the one who fell, not me." Perhaps seeing the weak, helpless version of herself in the past was what made her react that way. Nerys gently removed the cloth and softly asked, "You aren't hurt anywhere else, are you? Did her backside hurt badly? Can you stand?" The maid was very surprised to be met with concern instead of scolding. In response to those caring words, the maid said, "I'm really all right." Hearing that, Nerys let out a sigh of relief. That's such a relief. She bent down to pick up the cloth from the floor and sincerely said, "I'm truly sorry. I was so lost in thought that I didn't pay attention to my surroundings." This maid's name was January. She panicked when she saw Nerys picking up the fallen cloth from the floor and cried out, "Ah, my lady, please let me do it." Nerys smiled and replied, "It's all right. You fell because of me. If we do it together, we'll finish quickly, so let's pick them up together." Jan was so surprised by those words that she didn't know how to respond at first. Then she softly said, "Thank you, my lady." Nerys immediately replied, "It's nothing, but there really seem to be a lot of things to wash. Isn't it very heavy for you to carry all by yourself?" Jan smiled and raised her hands lightly. "Oh, it's all right. I usually carry things much heavier than this." Nerys looked at Jan with sparkling eyes and asked, "Really? Like what?" Jan proudly answered, "Moving heavy ingredients in the kitchen, or sometimes I have to move furniture around the house by myself." As she spoke, Jan quickly picked up the cloths and put them into the basket. She continued, "So this isn't heavy at all." Nerys looked at Jan with shining eyes and exclaimed, "You're amazing." Nerys curiously asked, "Are all maids as strong as you?" Jan replied, "Maybe I'm the only one." After gathering all the cloths back into the basket, Jan bowed and said, "Thank you for helping me, my lady, and I apologize again for startling you earlier." Nerys immediately answered, "No, I'm the one who should be apologizing." Then Nerys turned to go find her sister, and before leaving, she said with a bright smile, "Then be careful." Jan held the basket and watched Nerys walk farther and farther away. A little while later, Nerys arrived at that room. Norman opened the door for her. Katrin was idly swaying a fork in her hand as she said, "You're late again today, Nerys." Smiling with her chin resting on one hand, Katrin continued, "If you promised your sister yesterday, then you should keep your word. How could you leave me waiting like this?" Katrin once again brought up noble etiquette, saying that keeping one's promise about time was very important in high society. so next time Nerys should make sure to be punctual. Nerys quietly asked, Sister, where did all those clothes and jewels come from? I've never seen them before. Katrin smiled and spread her arms. These? The Duke's residence prepared them. During a war, we can't very well travel around with piles of luggage, can we? Considering that, since I said I came here using a magic circle, they prepared these things for me. At that moment, Norman gently pulled out a chair and invited Nerys to sit. Seeing that, Katrin's gaze turned colder as she said, You're an honored guest, so feel free to use them. Then, as quick as lightning, she added, They're such kind people, aren't they? As though she had never said anything harsh just before. Nerys fell silent, about to say something, but stopped herself, gradually sinking into her own thoughts and tuning out Katrin's words. She thought, saying that while dressed like this, she's dressed so extravagantly that it completely contradicts what she just said. Sister Katrin, has she really lost her mind? Seeing Nerys keep staring at her, Katrin frowned coldly and said, Is there something on my face, Nerys? The question jolted Nerys out of her thoughts. Flustered and anxious, Nerys replied, No, sister, it's nothing. Katrin smiled with a very sinister look and said, Staring at someone's face like that is very rude. If you make another mistake, you should apologize sincerely to that person. Otherwise, your reputation in society will quickly worsen. It's quite worrying, really, for you to lack even such basic manners, and yet you say you want to enroll in the Northern Academy. Hearing those words, Nerys clenched her skirt tightly. Please choose carefully when deciding about your studies, and never think of changing your mind afterward. Nerys' eyes tightened in fear, as though her thoughts had been exposed. Looking at her sister leisurely cutting her meat, she thought, just as I expected, teaching me etiquette is only an excuse. She invited me to eat with her just to mock me and humiliate me. Remembering that dark past, she thought, You really haven't changed at all, sister. But I've changed. I won't let you fool me like an idiot anymore. Thinking that, Nerys said, Thank you for your concern, sister, but you don't need to worry about that. I'll go to the Northern Academy to make up for what I lack. As I said yesterday, the Northern Academy has many useful fields of study. Katrin's hand involuntarily tightened. Nerys continued, Isn't it truly the perfect place for me? Katrin's face darkened as she said through clenched teeth, If you say so, then that's fortunate. Is there a department you intend to enter? Nerys answered brightly, Yes, I plan to apply to the accounting department. I'm also very confident in mathematics. Beside her, Norman placed a plate of soup and bread in front of her. Surprised, he said, Oh, Nerys, are you good at math? Nerys happily replied, Yes. I've studied diligently on my own at home using many theory books. Norman said, That is truly admirable. In that case, let me tell you this. Our Duke is always extremely supportive of talented people. Hearing that, Nerys' eyes sparkled. Supportive of talent. Norman continued, That's right. His Grace places great importance on discovering talented individuals to help develop the land. Those who have received the Duke's support are now displaying their talents as northern officials of the ducal house. So remember that. Nerys' eyes shone brightly as she thought, strong support. Yes, that's it. The moment she thought that, she stood up and said, Sister, please excuse me. I'll leave first. Katrin was shocked. What? Seeing Nerys stand up and leave, Katrin angrily slammed the table. Wait, we haven't even finished eating. Without turning back, Nerys said, Something urgent has come up. I'll be eating lunch and dinner alone today. Thank you for telling me, Norman. As she said this, Nerys' face was radiant. Norman looked at her with a gentle smile. Watching Nerys, he said, I will support you. As he watched her walk away full of hope, she looked just like an angel. At the military camp, several generals stood around the map on the table, constantly discussing tactics. The army of the Western Kingdom has begun moving again. We don't have time. We have to strike first. One general agreed. That's right. Now that the enemy is weakened, this is the best opportunity. We should quickly go back on the offensive. At that moment, Ian finally spoke. How exactly? His words made the generals uneasy. At present, we still haven't received resupplies because of the previous battle. Our mages have yet to recover. In a state where we have nothing, how are we supposed to attack? He calmly demanded, Explain it to me. The generals could not help but grow flustered. That. Ian turned to Hartman. Adjutant, when will the supply arrangements be complete? Hartman hurriedly reported. The supplies will be fully prepared in 2 days. Ian turned and gave his orders. Then, during that time, intensify surveillance of the enemy at once. Gather the knights and begin combat drills so they can be ready to fight at any time. Hartman followed him out of the tent. Everyone just keeps complaining. Walking behind Ian, he grumbled, I suppose after the last victory, everyone has become impatient. Ian remained calm. The war has gone on longer than expected, so it's understandable that they're growing restless. Ian suddenly remembered that it had been a long time since most of the men had been able to return home. Hartman awkwardly scratched his face. Yeah, that's true. Then he asked again, but are you also going to stay alone in the camp again today? Ian did not hide it. I have some personal matters to attend to. Hartman looked a little dissatisfied. Do you realize you're alone far too often? Have you ever thought about the fact that I have to stop the doctors and the military commanders every night? Ian merely smiled. Of course I have. Then he stepped closer and slung an arm over Hartman's shoulder. Thanks to such a capable aide, I can be at ease when I'm alone. I'm always grateful to you. Hartman was left speechless, utterly at a loss for words. Then Hartman turned and asked him, but how is the engagement going? I heard that daughter from that family is rather well known in the capital. Have you met her? What is she like? Asked that by his friend, Ian paused to think. He recalled that every time they met, she had always been asleep, so he did not really know what kind of person she was. He wondered what she was like when awake. A faint smile passed over his face, and he said to Hartman, she's like the sky. Hartman couldn't make sense of it. What? A person like the sky? Ian elaborated even more. Yes, exactly like the sky. Completely unpredictable. And she has blue eyes like the sky. Meanwhile, Nerys, while working through her papers, replied, I applied to this department because of magic and for the future of the nation. At last she finished writing the form and cried out excitedly. All right, this application should do. Why am I only learning this now? Then she imagined her future at the academy. Full support. If the Duke recognizes me as talented, I'll be able to study at the academy through my own ability. Nerys resolved herself. If I receive that support and graduate with excellent results, I could become a northern official of House de Bridge. She encouraged herself. This is my opportunity. Suddenly, she froze. What? Wait. She remembered something related to her sister. If I become a northern official, then I'll have to see Sister Katrin, who will have become the Duchess, all the time, won't I? She knew how dissatisfied Katrin was with her. From the beginning, I never cared about this engagement because she wanted so badly to become the Duchess. Nerys fell into deep thought. But then, would she really leave me alone at that point? She might still make trouble for me. But those worries did not stay in her mind for long. Forget it. I'll think about that when the time comes. Just then, someone knocked on the door, asking to see her. Lady Nerys, if you don't mind, may we speak for a moment? She quickly answered, yes, just a moment. She tidied up, then went to open the door and saw the butler outside. What is it, Norman? He politely said, Lady Nerys, I will escort you to a new room. The new room prepared for her was bright, with blue as its main color, beautiful and cool looking. As she stepped inside, she was completely overwhelmed. It was an incredibly luxurious room, even warmer than the previous one. She looked around. Could all this furniture be made with heat-retaining magic stone? If not, then, suddenly, the butler asked from behind her, do you like it? Turning back, she said, yes, I like it very much. Thank you so much for changing me to such a lovely room. But she could not help asking why. But Norman, why did you change my room? Feeling quite guilty, he did not dare hide it from her. I'm terribly embarrassed to say this, but I discovered too late that there was a problem with the heating in your previous room. He continued, while she listened in surprise. To make up for the inconvenience our guests suffered because of my mistake, I arranged a better room for you during your stay. I hope you will use it comfortably. She hurriedly told him, I wasn't inconvenienced at all, so please don't worry too much. Norman felt somewhat relieved. Thank you for saying that. At that moment, a maid came to call out, Butler, I have brought lunch. He ordered, come in. Then he turned and introduced her. Lady Nerys, there is someone I would like to introduce to you. Seeing the person enter, she could not hide her surprise. Oh, she recognized her at once. The maid doing the laundry that day. The maid who had just arrived introduced herself softly. Please allow me to greet you properly, my lady. Starting today, I will be your personal maid, January. Nerys excitedly ran over to Jan's side. Oh my goodness, I'm so happy, January. Jan looked equally delighted. I'm very happy to become your maid as well. The butler looked at the two of them in surprise. You already know each other? Nerys did not hide it. Actually, Jan nearly got hurt because of me. She remembered their first meeting. More precisely, Jan would never have dared let Nerys take the blame. No, it truly was my fault. Learning what had happened between them, Norman found it rather amusing. So that's what happened. Then he instructed Jan, now prepare the meal. She obeyed at once and left. Yes, butler. Nerys' attention then shifted to a door in the room, so she asked Norman, what is that door? Knowing which door she meant, Norman explained, that is only a decorative door. It has been there since the castle was first built. She seemed rather curious about it. So there are places where they hang doors purely for decoration. This really is an interesting place. By the time night fell, Ian was sitting in his room reading a book. After reading, he learned that a sleepwalker should not be woken up and that it is better to let them continue sleeping. He murmured, so after talking to her so many times, I shouldn't have done that. Suddenly, he heard a noise outside, so he set the book down and went to the door to check. The moment he opened it, her entire body toppled into him. He looked at her with a gentle smile. Your restlessness is quite serious, Nerys. Nerys entered the library with Jan, calling out excitedly, Can I really use such a wonderful library? Jan answered respectfully, Of course, my lady. His Grace instructed us to keep it open so that guests could use it at any time. As Jan hurried after her, she continued, So please don't hesitate. Make yourself comfortable. But Nerys seemed not to notice Jan's words at all, inwardly marveling. The people here are so hospitable. After everything they had done, she knew that because of the problem with her previous room, they had not only moved her to a better one, but had also prepared a personal maid and even new dresses. This is the first time in my life I've ever been treated like this. She silently guessed, they're this hospitable here, so the Duke himself must have excellent character, right? Just thinking about it made her smile without realizing it. What a wonderful day. As the Duke's guest, I want to thank him properly. Thinking that, she asked Jan, The Duke won't be returning anytime soon, will he? Jan was startled. Why, yes, my lady. The situation in the war with the Western Kingdom is not very good right now. After that, Jan had to act as though she truly believed what she was saying so that Nerys would believe her as well. It seems another battle is about to break out. His return will likely depend on the outcome of that battle. Just then, someone called out, Excuse me, my lady. It turned out to be a maid, so she asked gently, Emma, what is it? Emma immediately informed her, Lady Katrin would like to have tea with you. When Nerys heard that her sister had come, she went to receive her in the flower garden. In the garden, Katrin put on a deeply concerned expression. I was really so embarrassed because of you. With an arrogant air, she scolded her. You left first yesterday. Were you so busy that you couldn't even see your sister? But Nerys remained silent. Katrin kept talking endlessly, even though Nerys clearly had no intention of answering. From now on, let's have breakfast together. Shouldn't we show how harmonious we are as sisters while we're staying in the Duke's residence? Her words made Nerys remember that dark past again. Harmonious? Right. Our family always ate together harmoniously, except for me. Whenever I ate with them, I was always met with contempt and disdain from my family. Whenever the whole family sat together, she would be seated off in a corner. She always had to eat in misery. Sometimes she had even wondered if she was adopted. But she quickly regained her composure and accepted Katrin's suggestion. All right, we'll have breakfast together every day, just as you said. Seeing her so obedient, Katrin looked very pleased. Yes, that's a good way to think. Nerys did not want to talk with her any longer, so she tried to find an excuse to leave. If that's all, may I go now? I'm busy, so I have to leave at once. But Katrin was not about to let her have her way that easily, so she ordered someone to bring tea. Then let me give you your gift as well. A teacup was set down in front of her, catching her slightly off guard. Surprised? It's sleeping tea. Katrin spoke as if she were being caring. It'll help you sleep well. When she saw Nerys' face turn pale, she seemed satisfied. I prepared this because I was worried you weren't sleeping well at night. Nerys could hardly believe it. What are you talking about? I sleep well at night. Katrin merely reminded her softly. You're a sleepwalker, remember? At those words, Nerys visibly panicked, but Katrin still did not stop. 2 years ago, Father told you your sleepwalking had been completely cured, didn't he? Then she revealed a shocking truth. Nerys, that was a lie. The more Katrin spoke, the worse Nerys' expression became. Father only said that to put you at ease. Your illness was never cured. Then Katrin snapped her fingers. Now, then, when did your cursed illness begin again? Ah, I remember. You were wearing a lovely dress, just like today. That illness had begun with the incident 7 years ago, on Nerys' 13th birthday. That day, she had been dressed beautifully. Everyone had been cheerful. Happy birthday, Lady Tapana. Congratulations on your special day. Everyone at the party praised her endlessly. Who would have thought the youngest daughter of Count Tapana would be so beautiful? Indeed, that lovely dress suits her perfectly. Compliments rang all around her. She's truly adorable, Lady Tapana. Those words made Katrin jealous of her. Though she said nothing aloud, she was furious beyond endurance. How could someone like that be called a lady, just like me? Seeing Nerys' bright smile only made her angrier. And not only that, she even dared stand in front of me and smile. She knows nothing, so how am I even supposed to scold her? Then she noticed a glass of wine on the banquet table and came up with a wicked idea. She smiled maliciously. Ah, that'll do nicely. Then she called Nerys over. Nerys, come here and greet my friends. Hearing her sister call, Nerys obediently came over. She happily ran closer. Yes, sister. As she ran, she introduced herself. It's a pleasure to meet you all. I am Neritsa Topana. Thank you all for coming today. At that moment, Katrin stuck out a foot, sending her sprawling forward. The wine on the table spilled all over her as she fell. When Katrin saw her on the floor, she let out a loud cry, drawing everyone over. Covering her mouth as though utterly shocked, she exclaimed, "Oh my, Nerys, are you all right? You really should be more careful. Why were you in such a rush?" Hearing the commotion, their mother also hurried over. Nerys sat on the floor, unable to explain herself as more and more people gathered around her. She only stammered, Then someone laughed and whispers began spreading. They mocked her. "Are you all right, Lady Tapana? Oh dear, what should she do? Her dress is ruined." Nerys did not know what to do as the whispers grew louder and louder, but she was drenched in cherry juice and could do nothing at all. The Count's household is certainly something. Not only did her mother fail to ask how she was, she dragged her aside and scolded her. What on earth were you trying to do? Her mother kept berating her despite the many people present. This is the birthday party I worked so hard to prepare, and yet you've embarrassed our family. How much more do you intend to disappoint me? Nerys murmured weakly. Mother, later that night at the estate, a maid found her leaning against the wall in the corridor and gasped in horror. My goodness, Lady Nerys. The maid worriedly asked, at this hour of night, what are you doing here? My lady, why are you hanging your head like that? The maid kept asking, but Nerys did not respond. What is this? Can't you hear me, my lady? Lady Nerys. Back in the present, Katrin still would not stop digging into her pain. From that point on, you began wandering around the house in your sleep. Father learned of your sleepwalking and did everything he could to treat you, but at that point, Katrin paused and asked Emma, Emma, tell us what you saw last time. Emma answered honestly, just a few months ago, I saw Lady Nerys wandering around at night. As if afraid she hadn't heard properly, Katrin pressed again. You heard that, didn't you? Drink this medicine every day before going to bed. If you break the nighttime rules in the Duke's residence, it'll cause serious trouble. By then, Nerys was trembling all over. She had never wanted such things to happen in the Duke's house. If what Katrin said was true, then perhaps she had been wandering around the residence at night this whole time without knowing it. If the people in the Duke's residence had seen her like that, then surely they would report her sleepwalking to the Duke. And then both her chance to become a northern official and her admission to the academy would be impossible. Quietly, she resolved to find out the truth. I have to confirm whether what my sister said is true. I have to find out immediately whether my sleepwalking has truly been cured. Earlier, in the greenhouse garden, Nerys and Katrin had spoken. Katrin had wandered through it as casually as ever. This greenhouse really is wonderful. She plucked a flower from the beautiful yellow bed. Even though autumn had already come, the freesias were still in full bloom. She brought the flower closer, admiring it with a relaxed expression. No wonder this place is famous even in the capital. Her face slowly twisted into a scheming smile. Or perhaps this place only seems so beautiful because Nerys wasn't here this morning. That must be why it feels even more special. At that moment, Katrin's thoughts were filled with the image of Nerys being surrounded by attentive servants, smiling happily, and that only made her more jealous. That fool actually dares to smile and act arrogant outside. But remembering Nerys' fear over the sleepwalking made her feel satisfied again. As expected, frightening her with that sleepwalking illness really is effective. She regarded Nerys as a puppet she could control and use however she pleased, and she delighted in it. If she keeps behaving like this, I'll have to punish her properly. No matter how much she struggles, it'll be useless. I'll make sure she knows she's always under my control. A voice came from behind her. "You sent for me, Lady Topana?" She turned around. Butler Norman bowed respectfully before Katrin in greeting. "Thank you for coming, Butler Norman." He spoke softly. "I heard you had something you wished to ask." Katrin turned and casually threw the flower to the ground. "Yes, I want you to tell me something very important." With a confident smile, she stepped closer. "There's a private teleportation barrier for the Duke in this residence, isn't there?" The barrier she wanted to see was a type of symbolic magical seal, each form carrying its own special meaning and activated with magic. Among the nobles and the wealthy in the capital, it was common to have a private teleportation barrier in one's residence, and my fiancé, Duke de Bridge, had one as well. Norman merely continued observing Katrin. "So the Duke must have secretly returned to the residence before, correct?" She put on a weak, pitiful expression and looked at him as if begging him to tell her. "Please tell me, Mr. Butler. I worry for the Duke so much that I cannot sleep peacefully at night." While she rattled on, he remained silent with his hands behind his back. "Or at least tell me when the Duke will use the barrier to return here." Her smile gradually stiffened when the answer she wanted did not come. "I'm certain the Duke died in the war in my previous life." Smugly, she recalled a scene of herself and her lover lying together in bed. Of course she did, because the one who had told her that news back then was her lover at the time, Prince Theophilus. As the romantic mood deepened and Theophilus turned toward her, she had believed him completely. Even if it had only been a brief affair, everything Theo told me had been true, so I had no choice but to believe it. However, sometime later, after hearing the news that Duke de Bridge had died, she also remembered Nerys happily walking hand in hand with someone. Yet in reality, the Duke had not died at all. Instead, he had returned from the war as a hero. That is why I want to know what really happened. She pinned all of it on that innocent magical teleportation gate. There must have been a teleportation barrier. Her smile grew more and more sinister. The Duke must have used it to return to the residence and treat his injuries, which is why he survived. To think I'm only now learning such a simple truth. I really was a fool. Just as she was reveling in her thoughts, Butler Norman interrupted her. "Please forgive me, Lady Topana." Bowing carefully, Norman replied, "It is wartime. Information concerning the Duke and the high officials must remain strictly confidential. Therefore, I must ask that you never inquire about such matters again." Her expression fell as though she had been cast from a great height into the depths of despair. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned on his heel to leave. "Then please excuse my rudeness." But she called after him, "Wait a moment." Her face turned pale, and she stammered, Why can't you tell me?" In desperation, she claimed a position that was not hers. "I'm the Duke's fiancée. I have the right to know news of him." Hearing such shameless words from her, Norman remained silent for a moment. "Why must even I be kept in the dark?" Then he answered gently, based on the betrothal document Nerys had signed. "Regrettably, the Duke's official fiancée is Lady Nerys Topana, the one who signed the betrothal contract. As for you, my lady, you are merely under his consideration." Katrin finally collapsed completely. Nerys is the official fiancée. Her face had gone utterly white as she stared blankly into space. Norman slowly reminded her of the matter from the first day, when she had come to apologize. "I understood the misunderstanding regarding the betrothal for which you apologized on the first day. However, the only person with the authority to resolve any matter related to the engagement is the Duke himself." His face remained calm as he dealt with her. "So please pray for his safe return and wait quietly. Until then, I will continue to serve you with all due care." Nerys paced restlessly around the large room, exhausted. Jan watched her helplessly. Seeing Nerys pacing the room like that made Jan feel anxious as well. Then Jan spoke, and her words struck the mark exactly. "My lady, did something happen again yesterday between you and your older sister?" Startled, Nerys looked up at her. With a worried expression, Jan asked after her. You didn't sleep at all last night, and you've seemed anxious the whole time. You didn't even go to the library." But Nerys only remained silent, one hand drifting toward her face. Could it be that something is troubling you? Her mind was in turmoil. What should I do? Should I ask Jan first? No, perhaps Jan still doesn't know. I have to hide this sleepwalking illness carefully. If I don't, it will be just like that time. The image of her parents looking at her with contempt and disgust surfaced once more, sending a chill down her spine. Her breathing grew rapid, and fear appeared on her face. A familiar voice reached her and pulled her out of that haunting memory. "Lady Nerys, this is Norman." In a quiet voice, Nerys answered from inside. "Come in, Norman." His figure appeared hesitantly at the door before stepping inside. "Please excuse the intrusion." Butler Norman entered carrying a piece of paper in his hand and handed it to January. "Jan, I have something I'd like to ask of you." Obediently, Jan stepped forward at once. "Yes, what is it?" He spoke gently as he instructed her. "Please go to the market and buy the cooking ingredients listed here. We may be short of ingredients for tonight's meal." After hearing that, Jan cheerfully accepted the paper and rushed off right away to make the purchase. "Yes, I understand. My lady, I'll step out for a moment." Nerys stood there watching Jan's lively figure as she left. "All right, be careful." "Yes." Only after Jan had completely gone did Butler Norman begin to speak. "I heard that you had something you wished to say to me in private, so I sent Jan on an errand." His intuition startled her. For some reason, I had the feeling that what you wished to discuss would be something important. Inwardly, she thought about Norman. As expected of the Duke's butler, he not only sees through my thoughts, he also takes such careful consideration of me. Though she still hesitated a little, she decided to tell him. If it's him, then perhaps it's all right to reveal my secret. She began haltingly. "Actually, I suffer from sleepwalking." She told him about the times maids had discovered that although she was asleep, her body still moved and went elsewhere. "The illness first appeared when I was 13. I immediately tried many treatments, but none of them worked. At the time, she herself had been completely unaware of anything, no matter how badly she wanted to stop sleepwalking. I struggled with that illness for a very long time, but when I turned 18, a miracle happened. The condition gradually disappeared. While I slept, there were always many maids outside my door. That much is true. Every night, maids had to stand watch outside my room, but for several months, I stayed still and slept in my own bed. Afterward, her father had summoned her to his office to speak with her. Then father told me that my sleepwalking had disappeared. Then came her meeting with Katrin again. But yesterday, my older sister told me that was all a lie. Those words frightened her so much that she did not dare sleep. I can't trust what my sister says. But if it's true, then perhaps I've been breaking the rule against going out at night here, without even knowing it. She slowly closed her eyes, and the emotions she found so hard to speak aloud showed clearly on her face in her weary, troubled expression. I fear it may cause trouble for everyone here. That is what worries me the most. But then Norman's next words eased her heart. "Thank you for worrying about us, Lady Nerys." A faint smile appeared on Norman's face as well. "But please do not worry too much. We can verify it with a magic sphere." Norman calmly explained it to her. A magic sphere? Protective spheres have been placed throughout the Duke's residence to detect intruders. The purple lights you see glowing along the walls also come from those spheres. At night, if they sense movement, the protective spheres transmit the image to a magic sphere. It was as if she had found salvation. Her face grew much brighter and more cheerful. "Please keep this a secret, my lady. I will bring you a magic sphere, so please set your mind at ease and confirm it for yourself." "Thank you very much, Norman." Truly, on the battlefield, the enemy troops were so terrified that they did not dare advance any farther. 2 months later, if this keeps up, we'll be wiped out. Retreat at once. But Ian still shouted his order to pursue them. "The soldiers of the Western Kingdom are retreating." His face clearly showed his resentment. "Press after them." The troops obeyed and charged straight ahead. "Don't let them escape." The blond young man behind Ian suddenly raised his head. "What the?" One of the enemy mages was desperately gathering a huge fireball of magical power, and flames began to gather in front of him. The blond youth shouted loudly, "Commander, look out!" The mage unleashed the large attack straight at him. The blazing fire shot forward without hesitation. The fireball flew directly toward Ian as he charged after the retreating enemy, leaving no one time to react. Ian himself had not foreseen it and could not dodge in time. At the same time, a shout rang out from afar. "Ian!" Ian's father barked out as he raised his sword. "Don't act exhausted over something at this level." Ian looked worn out, drenched in sweat and gasping for breath. If you want to control that enormous magical power of yours, you'll need far more training than this, both physically and mentally. His mother pulled him into her arms and comforted him. Don't be angry with your father. He only does this because he wants you to be safe. All mages born into the Bridge family possess tremendous power like that. For a long time, they had to endure the jealousy of the royal family and the other noble houses in the capital. And even now, that still continues. That was why Ian had to keep his identity as a mage hidden. And no matter the circumstances, he absolutely had to keep his identity secret. The fact that he was a mage. Suddenly, a fragment of memory surfaced, and Ian snapped awake, his body drenched in sweat. Butler Norman asked if he was all right, and said it was a relief that the Duke had finally regained consciousness. Ian wondered why he was here. Norman explained that he had collapsed in the room with the deep-range transfer barrier. After receiving treatment, he had been brought back to his bedchamber, and Lord Hartman had urgently sent word to him and explained the situation. Ian had been attacked by a mage from the Western Kingdom, then returned to the camp and transferred here after winning the battle. Ian sat up, his head still a little dizzy. Just because of a moment's carelessness, he had been attacked. Norman continued, saying that Hartman was probably sweating bullets right now, trying to chase all the doctors and military physicians away. Wounds caused by magic not only took a long time to heal, but could also give him a fever, so he needed to rest. Ian looked at him. Is my fiancée still all right? Norman hesitated. Let me think. Didn't you say before that you didn't care much about this engagement? So he had no idea who Ian meant. Norman told Ian to get plenty of rest, and Ian lay back down on the bed. It seemed she would not be coming today. He had thought he would finally get to see her face again after so long, and he missed Miss Nerisse. Katrin was sitting in a chair while Emma brushed her hair. Katrin asked Emma, "What did you say?" Nerisse changed rooms. Emma replied that she did not know the exact reason, but it seemed Nerisse had moved to a larger and more luxurious room than before. Katrin frowned slightly. When did that little brat move out? Emma said she did not know. Irritated, Katrin slapped away Emma's hand, the one holding the hairbrush. Fine, now get out. Katrin slammed the table and glared at her reflection in the mirror, her angry face looking especially ugly. Really, everything around her was useless. Emma was useless. The old butler did nothing but oppose her, and the only thing that had gone well was the engagement matter being settled. Katrin gritted her teeth. Just when is that supposed to happen? Normally, if a couple got engaged, the wedding would be held a year later. But during wartime, to secure an heir, they should have already formalized the marriage agreement by now. Still, in her previous life, it seemed Nerisse did not marry until quite a long time after that. Damn it, she could not remember the exact timing. Back then, because her father was always whining about how the Duke would not hurry up and die, she had deliberately paid no attention to the North. In truth, her father wanted to sell both Katrin and Nerisse off for money. After all, he had already lost all his assets in his earlier business ventures, so what else could she have expected? Whatever the case, even if she did not know much about the North, that did not change the fact that she was better suited to be the Duchess. The North had always been cut off from the capital, both physically and psychologically, a place with almost no cultural exchange. In a place like that, she was the one with strong ties to the nobility of the capital. If she became Duchess, the North would no longer remain isolated. There was no way Duke de Bridge would not understand that. So when he returned, of course he would choose her as his Duchess. Katrin stood up, but she still felt something was missing. To win the Duke's heart, she would need something more. In her memories from her previous life, what was it that she was lacking? Then she remembered something. The de Bridge family had gone into the magic stone business. As the war neared its end, they had launched a highly promising magic stone business, and at its peak, it had made a huge impression in the capital and changed the way everyone saw the North. She had to be the one to start first, and if she gave the Duke the gift of a successful business, then she would have more than enough. Qualities to become Duchess. Katrin walked over and picked up a notebook. While she was at it, she needed to write down everything she could still remember and organize it. There was still 1 year left until the war ended. During that time, she had to make the business succeed and get rid of Nerisse completely. She had frightened Nerisse with that sleepwalking illness, so she had not seen her for a month now, yet there was still no sign that she would return home. Then again, if one stayed with a family that only had a glamorous exterior with a father-mother like theirs, it would be hard to go back. If the reason Nerys stayed here was because she hated returning home, then all Katrin had to do was send her somewhere else, right? In that case, instead of using the stick, she would offer Nerys a carrot. Butler Norman asked Nerys whether she had checked yesterday's recording yet. But she had not watched it yet. Maybe the whole sleepwalking story had just been a lie. Nerys thanked Norman for lending her the magic orb over the past month. Jan opened the door and said Lady Katrin wished to invite Nerys to breakfast. Katrin then rapidly bombarded her with questions about her ideal type, asking whether she preferred a reliable man with a great physique or a delicate and attentive man, or else a slender, handsome young man. Katrin pressed Nerys to hurry and say what kind of man she liked. Puzzled, Nerys asked why she was suddenly asking that. Katrin smiled. Sooner or later, you'll have to meet a man of the opposite sex, but you don't have any experience. I'm only worrying about you, Nerys. Nerys clenched her hand. I suppose that makes sense. My ideal type? My ideal type is a mage. If he were a mage, then when he explained new magical theories to me, wouldn't I be able to better understand the differences in actual spellcasting? I could practice right then and there, and we could even share opinions with each other. If the person beside me were a mage, that would be wonderful. Katrin thought, wait a minute. If that is the reason, then a mage friend would be enough, wouldn't it? An ideal type means a man you have romantic feelings for, not someone who simply satisfies your passion for studying, understand? Nerys fell silent. Yes, I understand. Katrin asked again what kind of appearance she liked in a man. Nerys held her spoon. Let me think. Actually, appearance does not matter that much. Katrin tightened her grip on the plate in her hand. A man's looks were extremely important, so Nerys needed to answer carefully. Nerys explained that she had truly never thought about it before. Katrin replied that Nerys had attended social gatherings with her before, so she should try thinking based on that. Nerys thought for a moment. Then, someone very handsome and elegant. Katrin was helpless. That was far too vague. She needed a more specific answer. Nerys was flustered. The reason she liked studying magic was very simple. When she had been exhausted from the sleepwalking illness, Nerys had happened to find a book in the manor library. It was called Theory of Magic, written by an anonymous mage. It was dusty and worn, yet the book had seemed to shine brilliantly. She had been unable to take her eyes off that sparkling light, and then she had immersed herself in the study of magic. So her ideal type would be a very handsome man wrapped in a radiant glow. Nerys lay down on her bed to relax. She was exhausted after struggling through such a long conversation with her sister. But why had her sister suddenly asked all that? All day long, she had talked only about men and romance. Just thinking about it made her afraid. Marriage? There was not a single man she could trust enough for that. So why was her sister telling her to do it? She really had no idea what Katrin was thinking. Suddenly, Nerys felt something. What was this gentle, soothing sensation? Who was beside her? Those glittering red eyes were unbelievably handsome. But why did they feel so familiar? The book Theory of Magic. That book had clearly turned into a person. Nerys closed her eyes in contentment. Wonderful. She was looking at the thing she loved most in this world. Thank you so much for coming to see her. Duke de Bridge felt very happy hearing those words from her. Nerys was terribly sleepy, but if she simply fell asleep like this, it would be such a waste. Right? Her sister had told her she should kiss. Nerys moved closer to Ian, kissed him, and hoped that he would definitely come again in the future. Ian woke up. He had been worrying whether Nerys was sleeping well on nights when he was not with her. She must have found her way back to her room, right? What a relief. He had thought that even if he were discovered in that moment, it would still be worth it. But he really had lost his mind. If his presence were exposed, it would cause trouble for both of them. Ian sat up, and Norman asked whether he felt comfortable. Ian said he was still fine. Norman handed him a change of clothes. Fortunately, Lord Girolamo Poncho has arrived today. Ian took the clothes and put them on. Who is Poncho? Norman explained that it was a branch surname within the de Bridge family, a self-governing side branch that had not associated with them for the past 80 years. At present, that man lived in the capital and served as a knight in the royal order. This time, he had come out of curiosity and admiration for the Duke, the leader of the war effort. Since he was traveling, he had asked permission to stay at the ducal estate for a few days. Norman asked what should be done. As Ian buttoned his shirt, he asked where the man was now. At the moment, he's in the library speaking with the top Hannah sisters. Ian thought for a moment. Since he was officially absent now, it could not be helped, but he still needed to see that man's face at least once. Poncho was showing off with playful gestures to entertain everyone, and Katrin clapped happily, praising it as a wonderful serenade. Katrin turned to Nerys and asked what she thought. It was truly wonderful, wasn't it? Nerys replied, yes, he sings very well. What exactly was this situation supposed to be? Her sister had suddenly come to the library, leaving her completely flustered. Then, right away, this night friend of hers stepped forward and said he would sing a song. Why was he singing in a library of all places? Poncho sat down and began telling a story. In the end, that unnamed young lady had deceived him. Well, a woman's heart was like a passing breeze, so he had already expected as much. Katrin seemed impressed. She smiled lightly. You flatter me. You're still as amusing as ever. The two of them chatted about all sorts of things. Nerys began to feel slightly suffocated, so she excused herself and stood up to leave. Katrin asked if she was leaving already. Nerys replied that yes, she had something she needed to do. It was very nice meeting you, Lord Poncho. He took her hand and said he was delighted to be welcomed by the young lady. Then you'll join us for dinner tonight, won't you? May I look forward to that? Nerys was flustered. She wanted to refuse, but Katrin told her they should all dine together. The more, the merrier. Nerys was still too stunned to respond, and stammered, Then Jan suddenly spoke up loudly. Oh, I'm so sorry. This book is too heavy. So she accidentally dropped it. She apologizes for the disturbance. Nerys immediately ran over to Jan and asked if she was all right. The crash had been very loud, and she anxiously checked on her. Poncho walked over to Jan and Nerys and remarked that the maid seemed to have been careless. Looking at the thickness of the book, it did seem a bit too much for a woman, so he would help. Jan cried out, No, you mustn't. I can handle it myself. Poncho answered smoothly that as a knight, helping a lady in trouble was only natural. There was no need to feel pressured, so she should just let him help. Poncho smiled and said that something of this size would be light work for him, then strained so hard trying to lift the book that his whole face contorted. Katrin looked at him and told him to stop. She would call someone else. Poncho's pride would not let him give up, and he kept forcing himself to lift it even though he clearly could not. Norman looked at Ian. Had he not clearly told him to rest? Lying in bed, Ian replied that it had been an emergency, so he had no choice. Norman said he knew everything, so Ian should not lie to him. He had used magic, so the book could not be moved, and Lord Poncho had even fallen over because of it. He had used transfer magic to go to the library, and then used magical power again to transfer back here. If he did that, would it not only worsen the tear in his wound? What possible reason did he have for doing such a thing? Ian did not answer. Poncho had not only touched his fiancée's hand, but had also put her in an awkward position. After seeing that, how could he possibly stay still? Norman begged his pardon and said he hoped Ian would not overprotect Nerys too much, that he cherished Nerys as his fiancée, made him happy as well, but being too protective would not be good for her. Warm sunlight and clear water were wonderful, but to become a sturdy tree, one also had to endure storms and droughts. Did one not? Ian said his fiancée was not so fragile. Norman knew that Lady Nerys truly had a strong heart, but that still was not enough to survive in the north. Only someone with the leadership to oversee all the northern nobles and the courage to withstand pressure from the royal family and the capital could become the lady of the northern territory. So if Nerys was to grow stronger, Ian needed to keep his distance from her. Norman bowed and said that if anything dangerous happened, he would step in, so Ian absolutely had to focus on resting. For now, the fact that Ian was here had to remain a complete secret. Norman left the room. Jan immediately ran up to ask after Ian, and Norman warned her to be more careful when she was in front of the Duke. He asked Jan what kind of person Lady Nerys was, in her opinion. Jan looked a little flustered. The young lady is truly very gentle. She's different from the nobles of the capital. Lady Nerys is very kind. Many of the servants are fond of her too, though she does seem somewhat weaker than Katrin. Even when Nerys does resist her older sister, it's still very difficult for her. Even so, Jan continued, compared to her weaknesses, Nerys has many strengths. She is very diligent and hardworking. please protect her a little longer and trust her too? Physicians kept arriving in droves, hoping to treat the Duke, but Lord Hartman kept blocking them. Hartman sent a letter to Ian. After their victory in the previous battle, the war had temporarily entered a quiet phase. So within a week, Ian needed to wrap everything up quickly and show everyone his face. He should hurry back so the two of them could return together. Otherwise, rumors that he was on the verge of death would leak out. After reading the letter aloud to Ian, Norman murmured that Hartman's phrase, "on the verge of death," was quite accurate. Irritated, Ian told him to stop saying such reproachful things, since he had already sincerely reflected on his mistakes. Norman told him to take his medicine and rest properly in his room, and Ian asked about Nerys again. Is she still all right? A lavish dining table was spread with food, and Katrin asked Poncho in surprise whether that story had not just been something he made up. Poncho immediately replied that no, it was the truth. Look here, aren't these solid arm muscles enough proof? Then, according to him, those thugs had been so terrified that they had scrambled to avoid him. Katrin laughed until tears welled in her eyes. Really? How wonderful, so impressive and gallant. She turned to Nerys and asked whether she found Lord Poncho interesting. Nerys answered indifferently that yes, she found him interesting. Only now did she realize Katrin's true purpose. She was trying to match her with Poncho. All day yesterday, Katrin had talked about nothing but men because of this. Nerys did not know why she had ended up in this situation, but she needed to be careful not to get swept along by Katrin's intentions. Poncho remarked that this was truly a very strange place. The nighttime rules Katrin had told him about were another example. It was no wonder people called this the Eerie family. Then again, the personality of the first Duke had apparently been very unusual, so something like that was entirely possible. Resting her chin on her hand, Katrin said teasingly, "Lord Poncho, are you trying to frighten the DeBridge family's fiancé?" Poncho laughed. He said he did not mean it that way. However, it seemed the ties among the family members ran very deep because he had heard many stories connected to this place. When this ducal estate had been built, the mage who was also the first Duke had filled it with all sorts of strange spells. Perhaps among them was even a spell to keep the Duke's own soul here. That would explain the rules forbidding people from walking about at night, would it not? Poncho's story made the atmosphere turn gloomy. He told Nerys and Katrin that they absolutely had to follow the rules, or there was no knowing what might happen. Katrin laughed. "Don't joke like that, Lord Poncho." Nerys cut into the conversation. She apologized, but it was not for no reason that the nobles of the capital avoided the DeBridge family. If a ghost appears, then let it appear. What does it matter? If I met the first Duke, I would thank him. Nerys had read every book that Mage had written. It was because of him that she had found her own dream. Katrin smirked. "Do you mean you'd feel at home, even with a ghost, Nerys?" She knew Nerys' personality well, so that was as far as she would go. Katrin apologized to Poncho, saying that Nerys had done nothing but bury herself in books, so she did not know how to manage her emotions. Poncho replied that it was fine. On the contrary, he was touched by Nerys' sincerity. Nerys clenched her hand tightly, and Katrin said, "Oh my, Lord Poncho, your generosity is truly remarkable." Nerys then spoke up, saying that in that case, Katrin should not run away, because she would not run away and would even welcome him. Katrin was so angry she was left speechless, and Poncho broke the gloomy atmosphere. He laughed loudly. "Haha, so what if a ghost appears? If a ghost shows up, I could defeat it with a single blow. So please calm down, ladies." Katrin sighed. "My little sister is that innocent. Isn't she adorable?" Poncho replied that he wanted to protect Nerys because she was so adorable. Nerys stood up and thanked Lord Poncho, but politely declined. She said she already had someone she liked, so Lord Poncho did not need to protect her. Then Nerys turned and left, saying she would excuse herself first. She hoped Lord Poncho would enjoy a wonderful dinner. Poncho fell into thought. He really did like Nerys, since she was nothing like Katrin. Why had Katrin not introduced Nerys to him back in the capital? Katrin said that at the time, Nerys had been in poor health. Poncho asked, "Poor health? Then is Nerys still unwell now?" He went on to say that Nerys had made quite a distinct impression on him in the library. He did not know whether she would respond to him, but there was still plenty that could be salvaged. Poncho boasted that he had turned countless girls in the capital into his captives. They were all innocent girls. He could charm them with his eyes closed. If Katrin simply gave a word, he would gladly take Nerys anywhere for an outing and even bring her to the capital. So she should just wait and see quietly. Katrin closed her eyes smugly. Luckily, she had remembered that Girolamo was traveling near the north. To her, Pancho was exactly Nerice's ideal type. He was the perfect person to show Nerice the bitterness of life. That way, she would be able to get rid of Nerice soon. Ian looked to the side. Had Nerice appeared in his dreams again? What did she want to talk about this time? Nerice looked a little dazed. She reached out her hand and asked Ian to be her lover. Ian was so startled he could not speak. Nerice continued, saying that today she had lied and claimed she already had someone she liked, so now she wished she truly had someone she liked. Ian grew flustered. These actions were all unconscious. In any case, once she woke up, Nerice would not remember anything she had done now. He thought there was no need to react to actions that held no conscious feeling, but in the end, he still agreed to be that person for her. Nerice closed her eyes in satisfaction and thanked him for becoming the person she liked. Then the two of them kissed. Jan entered Nerice's room and asked if she had slept well last night, because her complexion did not look very good. Nerice yawned and said she had slept very well, but she kept dreaming. Jan asked if she had a nightmare, but no, Nerice had actually had a beautiful dream. It was a dream about a book on magical theory, but that book had turned into a person and appeared by her side. Nerice blushed. Why had she dreamed about a man of all things? Was it because Katrin kept trying to pair her with Pancho? Or perhaps it was because she had said she already liked someone. Had lying caused her to have a dream like that? Whatever the reason, it seemed it was all because Katrin had influenced her. Nerice asked Jan thoughtfully why she had not changed at all. When she first came to the north, she had resolved to change, yet she still could not stand up to her older sister and had not changed one bit. Jan comforted Nerice, saying that was not true. She had changed a great deal. Even if it was slow, she was changing little by little every day, so she should not rush and should not be too discouraged. Her efforts were already enough. Nerice's eyes sparkled like diamonds. She asked if she could call Jan older sister. Jan was flustered. That won't do, my lady. Nerice asked why not. Jan was 3 years older than she was, and she had heard that relationships between nobles and servants in the north were very close. Jan replied that while that was true, they were not close enough to be like family. Nerice took Jan's hand and asked if she could at least think of Jan as an older sister in her heart. Jan smiled. You may only think of it that way. Nerice stared at her, her eyes glistening like twin drops of water. The dream of the book on magical theory, and the incredibly kind people of the north. Ever since coming to the north, every day had become something to look forward to. She was so glad she had come here. Nerice ran into Pancho. The moment he saw her, he smoothly praised her beauty with all his heart. The sky was as blue and clear as her eyes, and the weather was perfect for a walk. He invited her to stroll with him. Nerice looked at him. I suppose I'll be fine. He had been so persistent about asking her to walk with him. Nerice said, how strange. Pancho replied, yes, the north truly is a strange place. But she was saying that he was the strange one. Nerice turned toward him and said that yesterday he had clearly claimed that the ties among people in the DeBridge family were very deep. But after hearing what he had said, she no longer felt that was true. She had clearly said that she liked the north, so why was he saying these things to her? Pancho was flustered. It was just that he worried she might not know better. Nerice repeated, I don't know better. Pancho replied that there were many things she did not know. Even if she had come of age, she was likely still not used to social interactions. He asked if she had never attended ordinary social gatherings before. Nerice thought about it. That was true. Because of her sleepwalking illness when she was young, her parents had been ashamed and never allowed her to leave the house. So she had diligently studied etiquette and social manners through books. Perhaps studying only that way had not been enough. Pancho took Nerice's hand and pulled her into his arms. He comforted her, telling her not to worry because he would teach her everything. Nerice was shocked and cried out for him to let her go. He stroked her chin and smiled slyly, saying he would teach her all the things she did not know, all for her sake. Nerice struggled free and stomped on Pancho's foot. He screamed in pain and demanded to know what she thought she was doing. She shot back that it was because he had been rude to her first. Pancho got up and said he did not consider that rude, but intimate interaction. He grabbed her hand. Nerice shouted for him to stop saying nonsense, let her go, and that she had never given him permission to touch her body. Poncho looked at her. Will those harsh words change if I hold you in my arms? Nerys struggled in discomfort. Suddenly, someone in a black cloak that covered their entire body rushed forward and struck Poncho with a painful blow. He collapsed to the ground, his face pale. Nerys felt admiration for the person standing before her. With just one strike, this person had taken down a royal knight. Who in the world was this? She had never seen this person even once in the Duke's residence. Yet somehow he did not feel unfamiliar to her. The king was inquiring after the state of the Western Kingdom after the war. Thanks to Duke de Bridge's victory, if the Western Kingdom wanted to challenge them again, it would likely take a very long time. Since there was a possibility the neutral nations might ally with the Western Kingdom, it would not be easy to drive them into a corner. The king said he understood, and that they should continue monitoring the situation. That would be all for today. A man shrouded in black wished to report to the king that recently His Highness the Crown Prince had been actively associating with the king's close aides. If things continued like this, most of those aligned with the king would likely switch to His Highness's side. The king said, "What an arrogant brat. The throne has blinded him so much that he secretly acted behind the scenes to bring down his own father." The king said following de Bridge's advice this time had been the right decision. Then what was the Duke doing now? The Duke had used a teleportation barrier several times to check the situation, so he would likely continue teleporting back and forth to the Duke's residence at night to handle affairs. This time, it seemed he had used the barrier again to return and treat his wounds. However, since they could not approach his encampment, they could not be certain. The king ordered them not to do anything more that might make the Duke suspicious, and to simply stand at a distance and observe his actions. Then the king broke into a violent cough, his hand clenching tightly. Norman bowed and sincerely apologized to Nerys. He said he would keep a closer watch on Lord Poncho. He never could have imagined that a member of the Royal Knights would do something so improper. Nerys immediately said it was not Mr. Norman's fault, so he did not need to apologize. It was Poncho's fault. Norman still replied that failing to anticipate such improper conduct was also a major oversight on his part. Nerys reassured him that it was not something anyone could have foreseen, and besides, yesterday he had sent guards to her the moment he learned she was in danger. Thanks to Norman's help immediately afterward, she had remained safe and had not faced any further trouble. She truly thanked him for resolving things so promptly, so she wanted him not to blame himself any longer, because she was all right. Norman thanked Nerys and handed her a stack of papers. It was his written report. He had put everything in writing in case the incident might affect others. If this were sent to the Royal Knights, then Lord Poncho would probably not act recklessly again in the future. Norman said she did not need to worry about that, because Poncho had already left the Duke's residence this morning. Nerys was surprised. Ah, really? In truth, what had happened yesterday could be seen everywhere in the Duke's residence through magic spheres, so the situation had been quickly brought under control. Furthermore, the images had been preserved. Since the recording had been sent to the Royal Knights, Poncho had left on his own. Norman tucked the written report into his coat and thanked Nerys for always showing concern for them. He said he would keep the report carefully, and to prevent anything like yesterday from happening again, he had brought her a personal guard. Nerys looked over and immediately recognized that this was the very person who had helped her yesterday. Norman explained that this person was a guard of the de Bridge family, someone of exceptional ability. Yesterday, after Norman had arrived, this person had also disappeared, so she had taken notice. So he was a guard of de Bridge. It was truly fortunate to meet him again. Nerys bowed and thanked the guard for helping her yesterday. As the second daughter of the Count Tapana family, she would certainly remember this kindness. She introduced herself as Nerys Tapana and asked for the guard's name, but he remained silent, leaving her confused. Norman explained that the guard was practicing silence, so he could not speak. Nerys became excited. So he was practicing silence. That was why he felt so different, just like an ancient mage from the story she had read. Perhaps this person dreamed of becoming a mage like she did. The guard made a hand sign, as if he wanted to introduce his name. Nerys looked at what he wrote. Cherry. Nerys looked again. Sidia. I look forward to your help, Sir Seri. That guard was actually Ian. He blamed himself, thinking he should have killed that bastard. It was a shame he had let the bastard leave here in one piece. Norman told him that until he returned, he must not use magic anymore. If he kept using magic, his wounds would take even longer to heal. Ian acted as though he was fine and told Norman not to worry too much. It hurt a little, but he would recover quickly, and as soon as he was fully healed, he would train in magic again. Norman picked up the written report. Nerys had handled this matter very well. Not only was it evidence, it also clearly showed Nerys' position. With these, they would have no further problems with Lord Poncho. Ian suddenly spoke. Should he not also give his thoughtful fiancée a gift, so that she could completely forget about this incident? Nerys was about to enjoy some bread when Jan asked if my lady would like to go for a walk in the village near the estate. Nerys repeated, "A walk?" Jan replied yes. Ever since arriving in the north, my lady had never once left the estate. As it happened, there was a festival there right now. So how will my lady feel about going to refresh her mood? Nerys thought for a moment. All right. Then she said, I understand. I'll try speaking with Sister Katrin. Jan looked a little puzzled and asked why she would do that. Nerys answered uncertainly that perhaps Sister Katrin would also want to go with them. Jan hurriedly cut her off. No, my lady, you can simply go enjoy yourself alone. Nerys hesitated. Alone? She probably won't allow it. Jan cheerfully encouraged her. You could just sneak out. This is not something that requires your older sister's permission, my lady. Nerys cried out as she realized something. She relied far too much on Katrin. She thought to herself, why did I even think I needed my sister's permission to go? She remembered her former self. Yes, that was right. Her parents had never allowed her to go out alone, so perhaps that was why. And whenever she did go out from time to time, she always had to go with her sister. Nerys gripped her skirt tightly and told herself that now she no longer needed to do that. She turned to Jan with resolve. All right, let's go out and have fun. Jan, the maid, scratched her head and laughed, saying, I can't come. Nerys sounded a little disappointed. Oh, we can't go together? Jan explained. I need to stay here and stop anyone who comes looking for you, my lady. Instead, someone just as reliable as I am, Sir Sari, will go with you. Nerys looked a little worried, but going with Sir Sari feels a little awkward. Jan reassured her. It's all right. He may look unusual on the outside, but he isn't strange at all. Things that feel awkward at first will naturally work themselves out once you go out and enjoy yourselves. Jan encouraged her. Trust me and go have a wonderful time, my lady. From a distance, Nerys waved and called with a smile. Sir Sari, I'm over here. Over here. She happily began introducing the things she knew. Jan once told me that the fig muffins at that shop are truly delicious. I should buy 2 kinds. Nerys probed. Sir Sari, what flavor of muffin do you like? He gestured with his hand, whatever my lady likes. She added, I like all of them. Nerys went on, but my favorite is scones. Those crisp, crumbly pastries with the rich scent of butter are absolutely wonderful. They're the most delicious thing I've tried since coming here. He looked at her gently and listened as she spoke. Though I say that, every kind of pastry made at the Duke's residence is delicious. So, I really like them all. He wrote on his palm to indicate, then let's buy one of each. Nerys quickly agreed. All right, let's buy lots of pastries. Hearing something, she paused and looked over. Across from her, several girls were chatting. It's been so long since we've seen fireworks. I heard this time they've prepared an especially dazzling display, and apparently, they even invited a specialist from another region. They exclaimed excitedly, Really? I can't wait. Nerys thought to herself, fireworks. Remembering brilliant bursts blooming high in the sky, her eyes lit up. She turned and asked, Sir Sari, are they really setting off fireworks today? Then she asked, where will the fireworks be launched from? He pointed ahead. Nerys' eyes sparkled. So it's over there. I'm really looking forward to it. He signed with his hand, asking if this was the first time my lady had seen fireworks. She replied, yes. Fireworks are banned in the capital, so I never had a chance to see them. Walking ahead, she told him, I only ever heard about them from my sister and imagined what they would be like. I never thought I'd be able to watch fireworks here. She sighed in admiration. I always feel this way about this place, but I still have to say it. The North really is a wonderful place. The two of them entered a shop, and an employee called out, Yes, next customer. The clerk asked kindly, Hello, what would you like to buy? Nerys looked over the selection and said, I'll take one of each. The clerk replied politely, Certainly. Please wait a moment. When she saw him pull out a gold coin to pay, Nerys stopped him. No, please don't do that, Sir Sari. You don't have to pay. I'll pay. He raised a hand to indicate I have a lot of money. So much it's overflowing. She stared blankly. Overflowing with money. He shrugged in confirmation. The pastries were wrapped neatly and handed to Nerys. Holding them in her hands, she said happily, Jan will probably be surprised by this much, won't she? She said sincerely, Thank you for buying these for me, Sir Sari. He nodded, accepting her thanks. Watching her, he thought that he could not believe she and Jan had become so close. Nerys murmured inwardly, "Ah, on the way back I should buy some good tea too." He thought again, no, they see each other every day, so perhaps that is only natural. He imagined how, in just a little while, the two of them would hold hands and ask each other, "Did you have a nice outing, my lady?" Nerys cheerfully replied, "I bought so many gifts for January." Watching the two of them chatting happily together, they talked to each other every day. Since they were living together, it was only natural that they would grow closer and closer. How enviable. A voice called Sir Sari. She pulled him out of his thoughts. Nerys asked for his opinion. "What do you think about us going in there together? Welcome to the world of magic." That's what the shop sign says. With a hint of anticipation, she asked, could it be that they sell all kinds of magic orbs and magic potions in there? Or maybe even rare books on magic? He looked at her without saying anything. Nerys hesitated a little before asking, could it be that you're not interested in magic?" As she spoke, she studied him carefully. She stepped back and said, "If that's the case, then I'm sorry. I heard that Sir Sari is practicing staying silent." Hugging the pastries to her chest, she continued, "So, I misunderstood and thought you liked magic too. I really love the study of magic, so I think I got a little too excited for a moment." As she turned to leave, he touched her shoulder, then pointed toward the shop. Nerys asked uncertainly, "Are you saying we should go in there?" She repeated, "Really? Is that okay?" He nodded firmly. Then he wrote on his palm in front of her, "I like magic too. I really do. So let's try going in there, that shop." Back at the castle, Katrin crossed her arms angrily and asked, "What did you just say? Why can't I see my sister? Explain yourself again." Jan stood straight as she listened to Katrin's accusatory words. Jan answered seriously, "Lady Nerys is currently unwell." Katrin snapped, "Then you should explain my sister's condition to me," her elder sister. Losing patience, she pressed further. "What exactly is the reason you can't let me in?" Jan still answered, "My lady struggled with a high fever all night and has only just fallen asleep. At the moment, Lady Nerys is in no condition to receive visitors, so I ask that you please come another time." Katrin bit her lip and sneered. "Are all the maids here this impertinent? I was already irritated because Girolamo failed to do his job, and now even a little maid like you is giving me a headache. I heard the northern nobles are very arrogant, and that they don't hesitate to treat their servants like family members." The image of Duke de Bridge flashed through Katrin's mind. Aside from Duke de Bridge, all of it matched the rumors. "When I become the Duke's wife, I will never allow this." Unable to control her anger, Katrin slapped Jan hard across the face. Feeling insulted, she coldly said, "Say it again. Why can't I meet my own sister?" Jan's face was knocked to the side, and the place she had been struck quickly swelled red. Katrin frowned when she heard, "I apologize, but for Lady Nerys' rest, I ask that you please come another time." Feeling she was still being looked down on, Katrin raised her hand to slap her again. "You really don't know your place, do you?" Seeing Katrin about to strike Jan again, Norman shouted, "My lady, what are you doing here?" She turned toward the butler. Norman, perfect timing. This little thing clearly hasn't been taught properly, so hand her over to me." She continued, "I was merely giving this insolent maid a strict lesson." He quickly strode toward them. Norman stood in front of Jan and spread his arms to block Katrin from hitting her. "My lady, please do not say such absurd things. Although you are our Duke's guest, you cannot treat the servants of this household however you please. Every servant here is someone the Duke trusts. Please do not do something so thoughtless again." At that, her face darkened and she let out a cold laugh. Katrin sharply asked the butler, "Are you raising your voice at me right now? A common man like you?" Norman answered without fear, "Yes. Will you strike me across the face as well? And furthermore, I am not a commoner. My title is Baron." Hearing that, she fell silent and frowned without saying anything. Katrin turned and walked away, tossing out, "I'll let this matter go." She added, "I don't want my beloved Nerys to cry." Watching her back as she left, the butler replied, "Yes, I will follow Lady Katrin's wishes." Norman said to Jan, "No matter what, we have to send her away from here." She looked startled. Jan spoke up to stop him. "You can't. If we do that, there's no telling what Lady Katrin might do." Norman replied, "Even so, we can't leave someone that dangerous in this residence." If I keep allowing this, then you'll be hurt again. Jan took his hand and cut him off. I'm Fine, Uncle Norman. Please keep what happened today a secret. I want Lady Nerys to have a completely happy memory. I don't want her to worry. Jan smiled meaningfully. You don't need to worry too much. Before long, she'll have no choice but to submit to Lady Nerys. Please wait patiently until that day comes. Both you and I. Sibylla, sitting in her chair with her hands clasped, looked at the guests who had just entered and said with delight, "Oh, so you finally came. Welcome to my shop." Nerys blinked in surprise. She wondered, finally. The woman introduced herself. "My name is Sibylla." Then she said, "I can lift my eyes to the blue heavens and divine the fates hidden within them." Nerys thought, so she's not a witch, but a fortune teller. What a pity. I was sure she was a witch. That's a magic circle. Seeing the circles drawn on the paper, Nerys was startled. I've never seen a magic circle like that in any book. Could the study of magic also be related to physiognomy? Squinting, Sibylla said, "Both of you were born with the power to change fate. But it seems Milady's stamina is very weak from staying shut up in the library all the time." Nerys was surprised. Sibylla added, "For the sake of your future, you should make a habit of horseback riding. If that feels too difficult, then at least try practicing the basics of swordsmanship." Feeling a little embarrassed, Nerys thought, how does she know I focus on nothing but reading? Sitting beside her, Sari held back a laugh at the words. In the future, who knows how much hardship you'll have to endure? In the future, who knows how much hardship you'll have to endure? Sibylla held out her hand and continued. Now then, if there's anything you're curious about, feel free to ask me. If it's something I can answer, I will. Nerys thought, something I'm curious about? People say fortune tellers usually have business tricks. Looking at Sibylla, she thought, but strangely enough, I find myself trusting her so easily. Since I'm already here, asking a few questions should be fine, right? She asked, will I be able to settle in the north for good? I really love this place. She added, the scenery and the people, everything here is so kind and warm. That's why I want to keep living here. Sari was surprised by how deeply she had come to love this place. Nerys asked again, can I do that? Sibylla asked in return, my lady, what do you think of a harmless lie? Nerys, a little confused, hesitated before asking back. A harmless lie? Sibylla said, this is an important question, so please answer honestly. Nerys nodded. A harmless lie? Come to think of it, father and sister also told harmless lies about my sleepwalking illness. Father said he did it to reassure me, but the father I know is not that kind of person. But if there truly were good intentions behind those words, Nerys voiced her honest thoughts. If the intentions are truly good, then perhaps lying is all right. At the very least, it's better than speaking with bad intentions or mocking me. Sari froze at her words. Sibylla said, very well. She raised her hand toward the glowing orb. Outside, fireworks began blooming across the night sky. Sari heard the noise and saw the light outside. Oh, the fireworks have started already. I could run out and watch them now. He glanced sideways at Norman, who had not yet left, and thought, Sari lowered his eyes. I can't speak. Sibylla began to say, Milady, your present self is not the image of who you wish to become, is it? Nerys tensed, but Sibylla went on. And yet, in accordance with your yearning, you will attain it. So do not hesitate. Desire it and strive toward the future. The future of the two of you will be filled with good fortune. After returning to the manor, Sari helped her down. Cheerfully, she said, that was so interesting. Thank you for spending all day out with me today, Sir Sari. Thanks to you, I had a wonderful time. He gestured, but you still didn't get to see the fireworks. I am truly sorry. I should have told you to go outside while we were at that shop. Nerys comforted him instead. It's all right. I heard they'll set off fireworks again next year, so I can watch them then. You don't need to feel so guilty. He gestured in return. Do you think you'll still be here next year? She smiled brightly. Yes. The fortune teller said so, didn't she? If I truly yearn for it, then I'll attain what matches that yearning. So I'll keep yearning for it. I'm definitely going to live in the north. The scene shifted to a study in the royal palace, where a young man sat on a long chair. Suddenly, someone knocked outside the door and asked permission to enter. Forgive my intrusion, Your Highness the Crown Prince. He asked, what is it? The man stepped forward, searched inside his coat, and respectfully answered, Lady Topana has sent you a letter. The young man accepted the letter the man offered him and said, if a letter has come at a time like this, then it must be urgent. As he read it, he asked the man, "How has father been lately?" The man answered at once, "There's been nothing unusual, so it would seem His Majesty the King remains in good health." Still reading the letter, he then asked, "And what of my younger sister on the battlefield?" The man replied, "They are watching the movements of the king of the Western nation, so they are still waiting in the war zone." The young man smiled and asked, "So in the end, she'll return safely, is that it?" With malicious amusement, he said, "She lives a life worth less than a bug. So why is it that she clings to life so stubbornly?" The one speaking was Prince Theopolos of the Kingdom of Gideon. Theopolos continued, "How ridiculous. Once the war ends, the coronation will probably be carried out. Just thinking about that, man, makes me wish the war would grow even bloodier. If they all die in battle, father will have no choice but to give the throne to me." He mused, "My younger brother should be protecting what belongs to me. In that sense, aren't Tyrant and I quite alike?" Then he glanced at the man and asked, "How is that matter progressing?" The man answered, "They say it is nearly complete." Theopolos repeated, testingly, "Nearly?" The man answered, "Yes. The mages say all that remains now is a trial run and some final adjustments." Lifting his wine glass, Theopolos listened as the man reported, "It should be finished within a week." Hearing a result that displeased him, he hurled the wine glass straight at the man's face. Shards of glass scattered everywhere. Theopolos asked coldly, almost mildly, "Who dares waste a week of my time without permission? No matter what it takes, complete it within 3 days. Otherwise, every last one of you will lose your heads." At that time, back at the Duke's residence, in the training yard, Nerys said tiredly, Wait a moment, Sir Sari." Hearing her call, Sari turned around. Struggling to run after him, she gasped, "Jay, just a little. Please slow down, just a little." Panting, Nerys made a suggestion. "Sir Sari, can't we train with something else? Something less exhausting?" He gestured. "Things like running are basic, and without them your stamina won't improve. I also told you clearly that it would be very tiring. Back then, you were also the one who firmly said, 'I want to learn swordsmanship.'" Nerys replied in exhausted disbelief. But I thought we'd be learning swordsmanship right away. I had no idea I'd have to run 10 laps around the training grounds." He gestured again. "The foundation of swordsmanship is stamina. If you start sword practice right now, you'll get hurt very easily. So even if it's hard right now, endure it and do your best to get through it." Looking miserable, she pleaded, "Then it's fine if we just rest for a little, right? I'm so tired." Seeing that she was on the verge of collapse, he agreed and gestured. "Only 5 minutes." She lit up in surprise and delight. "Really? Really? We can actually rest? You can't take it back." While the two were training, Tyrant approached. "Oh, may we talk for a moment?" Crossing her arms, she stood in front of them and asked Nerys, "I heard you were sick for days, yet here you are making all this noise? You look perfectly healthy, so I suppose it wasn't anything serious." Nerys asked, "Is something the matter, Sister Tyrant?" Tyrant looked at her sister searchingly. "I heard you recovered, so, as your elder sister, I came to visit you. But you weren't in your room. So what exactly have you been doing here since early this morning?" Nerys answered, "I'm building up my stamina so I can learn swordsmanship." Tyrant turned her gaze toward the man behind her. Learning from him, Nerys was startled by her own slip. Let me introduce him. Sister Tyrant, this is a guard of the Bridge family. His name is Sari." At that, Tyrant frowned and examined Sari sharply. Nerys continued, "He's the one who saved me from nearly getting involved in something serious with Lord Poncho." Tyrant thought to herself, so it's this man, the one who ruined my plan. Why does he cover his whole face? It makes me even more annoyed. Could he be some fugitive criminal? With a cold laugh, she raised her voice. "You there, why don't you introduce yourself to me properly? What? Was your tongue cut out, so you can't speak?" Nerys protested loudly. "What are you saying, Sister Tyrant?" Sir Sari is practicing silence, so he can't speak. Tyrant sounded unconcerned as she said to Nerys, "Why are you getting so angry?" "I was only joking." Nerys insisted, "A joke? That wasn't a joke. It was an insult. Apologize to Sir Sari right now." Tyrant curled her lips. "Nerys, it seems you're very fond of this man." With contempt, she thought, she's defending him as if he were a child. Nerys blinked in surprise. She hurriedly tried to explain, gesturing with her hands as she spoke. "And no, it's not like that. Sir Sari is my friend." Tyrant clearly did not want to hear it and cut in. I know. You're just friends. Katrin said pleasantly, Sir Seri, it seems my younger sister is very fond of you. I hope you'll grow even closer to her. Seri looked at Katrin coldly. He gestured, I'm sorry, but I'm a personal guard of the de Bridge family, so tomorrow I must head west. Therefore, I cannot accept that request. Nerys looked disappointed. Seeing that he still refused to speak, Katrin grew irritated. What is this? Are you mocking me with those hands? Are you trying to make a fool of me now? Nerys hurried to smooth things over. And no, that's not it. Sir Seri means that tomorrow he will go to the west. Katrin replied flatly. Oh, is that so? Then she said, Nerys, go back inside first. Sir Seri and I will talk slowly on our own. Nerys hesitated, worried the two of them might clash. Yes, but she thought, she clearly looks like she wants to trouble Sir Seri. Seri gestured reassuringly, telling her not to worry. It's fine. So for now, go back to your room and rest. Before I leave, I will definitely come say goodbye to you. Nerys stared at him for a moment before leaving. You absolutely have to come, Sir Seri. Katrin spoke first. If the reason you're going west is to meet the Duke, then postpone it for now. He was bewildered by her words. Katrin waved a hand and said with a smile, the Duke was attacked by a witch from the Western nation, so he's probably unconscious right now. That means, for the moment, it will likely be very difficult for the Duke to return to the north. Seri was stunned by the information Katrin had just revealed. How could she know something that was supposed to remain absolutely secret? Right now, the only ones who know I was injured are the soldiers there in Hartman. If word had reached the capital, then perhaps only His Majesty the King would know. How could she possibly? Katrin covered her mouth and gave a graceful laugh. Don't be so surprised. I have extensive connections, so I receive valuable information from highly reliable sources. She stepped closer to Seri and said, but this is not the important matter. I have a proposal for you. Katrin declared confidently, if you want my younger sister, take her away. Leave everything else to me. You needn't worry about a thing. Seri said inwardly, what a truly insane woman. Before, I had heard from Norman that the relationship between the Tapana sisters was poor, but asking some man of unknown background to run away with her own sister. Seri was too fed up to hear more, so he decided there was no point dragging this out any longer. I'll handle this properly. I'll grant your wish. Katrin narrowed her eyes and smiled brightly, pleased by the answer she wanted. That night in the castle, Nerys felt uneasy. Why hasn't Sir Seri come yet? He promised he would say goodbye before leaving. As she recalled the way Sir Seri had comforted her, she thought uneasily, could Sister Katrin have done something rude to him? So because I'm her younger sister, did he assume I'd be just like her and simply leave? Or maybe Sister said terrible things about me to him. She reproached herself. I shouldn't have left the two of them alone together. A knock sounded from outside. Nerys called out, Jan, you're here. She opened the door and said, Jan, do you happen to know whether Sir Seri has? Before she could finish, she saw that the person standing at the door was Sir Seri, and she froze in surprise. Oh, she happily called out Sir Seri. Using hand signs, he said, I'm sorry for being late. She replied casually, no, it's all right. I'm really happy I could say goodbye to you like this. You're going to the Western region tomorrow, right? He nodded. Nerys' mood fell. I knew it. Please make sure to stay healthy. She made him a promise. As for me, I'll keep practicing running like you told me to, Sir Seri. So when you return to the Duke's residence later, please teach me swordsmanship. And we have to watch the fireworks together too. Seri raised his hand in a gesture. Seeing that, she asked, is that your way of asking for a promise? He gave a small nod. Looking at her bright smile, he silently vowed to her, I will definitely come back. I will teach you swordsmanship, and I'll go watch the fireworks with you too. I promise. He hooked fingers with her as a sign that he would absolutely keep his word. In the night sky above the forest, a light flashed inside a tent. He appeared wearing a mask and a red cloak. A voice spoke from behind him. What's with that gloomy mask? Hartman said, I've decided to keep this secret from my family. He pointed to the silver emblem set with a blue stone. The soundproofing magic sphere is still active, so be honest with me. If I hadn't sent that urgent letter, you weren't planning to come back at all, were you? Duke Ian de Bridge removed his mask and answered, my injuries were very serious. Ian said sincerely, even so, thanks to a highly capable vice commander, I've recovered to some extent. I am truly grateful. Hartman rubbed his forehead with a headache. He asked in disbelief, I'm seriously suspicious. Were they really that severe? Ian replied calmly, It will likely take quite a bit more time before I fully recover. He added, there have already been even more exaggerated rumors about my wounds than that. Hartman was surprised. What? Already that fast? Turning away, Ian took off his coat and said, I expected this, but I didn't think it had already spread to the north. And not just the north. Before long, it'll probably reach the capital too. Although we've limited contact with the outside, this is currently a truce period, so we can't stop letters being sent home to families. The informants in the capital must have used those letters to spread the news. Hartman gave a cold laugh. As expected, the nobles in the capital are all schemers. Even now, when information is worth gold and silver, they still want to play these games during a war? Ian said, if that's how they want to act, then all the more reason for us to conduct ourselves openly and properly. People don't become shameless in just a day or two. Hartman looked a little surprised as Ian continued. By the way, spread the word that I'm seriously injured and need rest. Hartman asked again, you're really going to announce it like that? Ian replied, after all, hundreds of soldiers saw me being attacked, and even the military doctors who wanted to see me were turned away. Hartman said, then we also need a believable explanation for where you've been all this time. Ian answered, true. The king of the Western Kingdom is in poor condition right now, so things may stay peaceful for a while. Hartman informed him, besides, many are saying the capital is currently reviewing the proposal for a ceasefire, so it may be all right if you're absent for the time being. The Duke sat down and praised the news. That truly is welcome news. Sensing something, he added, in that case, I'll make sure to get some proper rest while I have the chance. Remembering Nere's energetic smile, he added, my hometown is truly comfortable. Hartman frowned and ground his teeth. Ian, the reason you're saying your injury is so severe. Could it be because of your fiancé? Duke Ian DeBridge straightened up seriously. Crossing his arms, he asked challengingly, and if it is? Hartman sat bolt upright in disbelief. What? Hey, are you serious? Startled, Hartman asked, didn't you decide to break off that engagement? He continued, to present you as an easygoing duke and win the king's favor, I introduced you to a family whose daughter you could easily get engaged to, and just as easily break it off with if you paid them enough. Don't tell me now. The Duke cut him off. I have no intention of breaking off the engagement. Hartman looked worried about the plan, but Duke Ian DeBridge said, even if I did break it off with her, our plan would absolutely not be affected. Everything is proceeding exactly as I expected, so don't worry. Hartman said, do as you wish. Then I'll prepare an announcement saying that you need to focus on recovery and that you'll return soon once your wounds have healed. Hartman added in admiration, Miss Katrin Tapana must be an amazing woman to have you this captivated, even if her family is less than ideal. Ian said, my fiancée is not that woman. Hartman asked in confusion, what do you mean? Then who exactly are you engaged to? The second daughter of Count Topana's house, Nerese Tapana. She's my fiancée. At the training grounds, Nerese, exhausted, dropped heavily to the ground, gasping for breath. Whoosh. 10 laps complete. She thought to herself, this is much harder than I expected. Just like the fortune teller said, my stamina really does seem pretty weak. For now, I'll run in the practice yard, and once my stamina improves, I'll run outside. She stretched her legs to relax. Nerese thought excitedly, later, Sir might really teach me swordsmanship. She murmured, but for now, I'll think about Sir for just a little while. Just a little. Katrin walked in and asked, what are you muttering to yourself about? Nerese looked puzzled. Did something happen again, Sister Katrin? Katrin spoke in a teasing tone. Oh, you silly child. If someone heard you, they'd think the two of us weren't close at all. She said, Father and Mother are about to arrive. Inside, Nerese let out a silent ah. Katrin continued, so get up, wash up, and change your clothes. Nerese replied, I see. It's been a while since I've seen them. Katrin lightly rebuked her. Goodness, you're so indifferent. I thought you'd ask why Father and Mother were coming here. Nerese stood up and dusted herself off. Well, it's only natural. Both of us suddenly came to the north, after all, so I thought they'd come here sooner or later. She added tiredly, that is, if they cared all about your strange behavior regarding the engagement. Nerese said coldly to her, then they arrived rather late, didn't they? Katrin gritted her teeth in anger. Nerese walked out of the training ground step by step, leaving Katrin behind as she stared at her back. See you later, Sister Katrin. After getting ready, she walked to the door and told herself, it's all right. I can do this. I already expected this, just like I told my sister, so I don't need to be afraid. And I don't need to cower. When the door opened, Nerese resolved herself. No matter what I have to hear, I can endure it. Outside, The scene was of a family of 3 embracing and crying. Nerys greeted them. It's been a long time since I've seen you both, father, mother. All 3 turned to look at her with unwelcome expressions. Nerys, the Count bit down and coldly demanded, "What exactly are you doing here?" Count Topana demanded, "What exactly are you doing here instead of coming home already?" He asked about the engagement. "You heard everything from Katrin, didn't you? So hurry up and come home at once." Countess Topana shielded Katrin and demanded, "How can you stay here without a shred of shame? After this, how is your sister supposed to face her fiancé? Why do you always have to disgrace this family?" Nerys was stunned by the venom in their words and the hatred in her family's eyes. She explained with a trembling voice, "Father, mother, I'm in the north." Katrin stepped in front of her and cut her off. "Father, let's not stand out here in the cold. We should go inside. I'll take you to the greenhouse." The Countess seemed interested and fanned herself as she asked, "The greenhouse? The greenhouse at the Duke's residence?" Katrin turned and led the way, answering with a confident smile, "Yes, that's right. It's a marvelous and beautiful place, famous even in the capital. I spend time there every day." Covering her mouth, the Countess said to her husband, We've truly raised an exceptional daughter." He replied proudly, "Indeed. Now we'll have something to boast about in the capital. Our trouble in coming all the way to this north was worth it." Hearing the Count and Countess talk, Katrin's eyes shone with satisfaction as she smiled. She thought to herself, "Father and mother know nothing. The most precious thing in the north isn't that wonderful greenhouse, but the most perfect man in the kingdom, Duke de Bridge. Him, just thinking about it makes my heart flutter. That man, flawless in every way, will one day become my husband. Just 1 year from now, he and I will dance together at the Victory Celebration Ball. All the young ladies from noble families will envy and resent me, including Nerys." A loud noise rang out, startling her and cutting off her thoughts. Countess Topana asked, "Katrin, is this the greenhouse?" In front of them, servants and workers were busy laboring. She said, "It looks like something is under construction." The Count added from behind, "Seems like using the greenhouse right now would be difficult, wouldn't it?" Katrin said nothing and hurried forward, calling out loudly, "Wait a moment." She urgently asked the butler, Norman, "What is going on here?" Seeing Katrin approach, the butler bowed in greeting. "Good morning, Miss Katrin." She raised her voice. "That's enough greeting. Explain to me what this is supposed to mean." He answered calmly, "We are currently conducting maintenance and repairs on the greenhouse to prepare it for winter protection." Katrin's face darkened as she shouted, "How can you do this? You should have informed me beforehand." Hartman calmly continued, "I truly apologize for that, Miss Katrin, but winter preparations are extremely important, so I ask for your generous understanding." In the reception room, the atmosphere turned cold and heavy, with no one speaking. Katrin lowered her head, furious inside. Countess Topana finally spoke first. "Well, that is true, isn't it? The Duke's residence is very large, and the buildings are even grander than we imagined, right?" Count Topana followed, "Huh? That's true indeed. It seems the Duke must have spent an enormous amount of money. If he's this wealthy, the wedding is sure to be incredibly lavish." Nerys spoke up nervously. I intend to study at the Northern Academy." The Count and Countess were startled to hear her. They immediately began scolding her. "You foolish girl. Do you think the money for you to attend an academy just comes out of the ground?" Katrin said, "What nonsense is she talking about?" Lifting her teacup, Katrin explained calmly, "Nerys is currently aiming for financial support from the Duke's family. The de Bridge family does not spare money when it comes to fostering talent in the North, so they are currently supporting people like that." She said coldly, "She says she thinks she might receive that support." Hearing that, the Countess scolded, "A foolish girl like you think support from the Duke's family is something you can just get?" The Count shouted, "So that's why you came to the North? To nurture some ridiculous dream like that? We absolutely will not allow it, so give it up." Nerys asked back without fear, "Didn't sister clearly say that father agreed to let her enroll in the school I wanted to attend?" His face darkened as he pointed at her and snapped, "Those are 2 different situations. Do you know how exhausted your father has been lately? Why is a daughter like you always thinking only of herself? Not wanting to see her family anymore?" Nerys immediately stood up and said, "I've already made up my mind. No matter what father and mother say, I will not change it. So please just watch me." As if remembering something, and without caring what they thought, Nerys added, "Of course, it's fine if father and mother don't concern themselves with it at all." After she left the room, Countess Tapana angrily fanned herself hard and said, "What on earth got into her? Why is she suddenly behaving so rudely?" Katrin set down her teacup and said with disappointed sorrow, "Even though I've comforted and advised her many times, she keeps acting like this. So, just as I wrote in my letter, when you return, please take her with you." Count Tapana folded his arms, frowning as he decided, "Very well, you're right. And while we're at it, explain the situation from earlier." He began questioning her. When the engagement was passed to Nerys, why did you suddenly change your mind? And what about the letter you left behind when you departed? Even now, the more I think about it, the more shocked I am. Were you planning to turn this father of yours into a drunkard and ruin Nerys' engagement? Katrin explained her reasons. "I know I was stubborn this time, father, but as I wrote in my letter, how could I possibly let go of the precious chance to become the Duchess?" The Countess said in some confusion, "But Katrin, you wanted to become a flower of high society. That's why we've supported you both materially and emotionally." Katrin declared loudly, "I must achieve that dream here in the north at any cost. You both know it too. I have more than enough ability to make it happen." The Count rested his hand thoughtfully while Countess Tapana sat quietly listening to her daughter. Frowning, he asked, "Even so, there's still one thing I want to ask regarding the letter you sent last week. What business are you planning to start, and will it become capital for our family business?" She replied, "Yes. I received support fund from trustworthy business partner, so I now have some capital. Because of that business, I'm planning to leave the Duke's residence. It will probably take about a week." Countess Tapana asked uneasily, "Do you really have to go? What if the Duke returns during that time?" Katrin placed a hand on the Countess's shoulder and reassured her, "There are many rumors in the capital right now saying the Duke has been seriously injured. He will most likely only return once he is fully recovered." She picked up her teacup and took a sip. "I'll be back before then, so don't worry, Mother. So while I'm gone, please take good care of Nerys." In Nerys' room, she lay on the large bed and sighed. This is exhausting," she thought. "Even without this, I was already busy preparing for entrance lessons, and because of father and mother, I'm even more swamped. Still, for the first time, I actually dared to speak my mind directly to them." Thinking that, she smiled and silently encouraged herself. "At this rate, maybe I'll become more mature and different from before." There was a knock at the door from outside, and she said, "Yes, come in." Jan opened the door and entered, looking somewhat worried. "Please forgive me, my lady. Count and Countess Tapana have asked me to bring you to dinner. What would you like to do?" Nerys asked suspiciously, "Could it be that Sister Katrin will be there too?" Jan replied, "No, my lady. Miss Katrin is not at the residence right now. This afternoon, she left on a trip to visit a friend." Nerys lowered her voice. "She went on a trip?" She thought. "It seems she doesn't intend to be absent before the Duke returns. I wonder what the reason is. Whatever it is, tonight only father and mother will be there. At the very least, maybe they'll scold and criticize me less than they did at home, right? Even if they do scold me just like before, I no longer intend to simply endure it as I used to." She walked over to Jan and made her request. "Jan, could you prepare clothes for me to wear to dinner?" She decided, "Please prepare something more splendid than what I usually wear." At the large dining table, Nerys sat facing her parents as they ate together. She brought a piece of meat to her mouth with her fork. "Munch, munch." I thought they would nag me and send me home, but the two of them are just eating calmly in front of me. Why are they suddenly so quiet? Could it be? Nerys smiled happily as she looked at the clothes she was wearing. "Is it because I dress more nicely than usual today? You become very different from before." Jan's voice echoed in her ears from her memory. "So don't shrink back. Face them with confidence." At last, Jan's efforts had paid off, and Nerys smiled happily. Suddenly, an unexpected voice rang out, making her flinch. "Nerys, for the time being, go home and help Diego a little." Her face stiffened with displeasure and irritation. "Why should I do that? You're always clutching those books, so shouldn't you know at least a little about managing a territory?" Nerys' father spoke up. "That's father's responsibility. There's no reason I should have to do it." She shot back. "And I'm clearly going to study at the Northern Academy. You think you can get in?" Her mother's face turned pale as she held her napkin. "So you've come to the North and gotten full of yourself, have you?" Nerys replied firmly, "I had no choice but to live this way. Have you forgotten? I came here to become the Duchess. Until Sister canceled the engagement for that absurd reason, I was the official fiancé of Duke Ian de Bridge." Both her father and mother stiffened with displeasure. "So don't force me to obey you the way I did at home, and don't oppose my enrollment either." Why you dare talk back to me? The man said in shock. I will break off the engagement if that's what you want, Nerys said firmly. But if father keeps trying to stop me like this, then I will do everything I can to protect my dream. Her father ground his teeth in anger. How dare you? Her hands clenched tightly on her knees. It's okay, Nerys. I'm doing fine. This is enough. No matter what I hear now, I mustn't let it get to me. How did something like you ever come into being? Nerys' eyes widened, as if she could not believe what she had just heard. You may be my daughter, but unlike Katrin, you're truly disgusting. Tell me the truth. Her mother pointed at her. You want the position of Duchess, don't you? No, that's not it. It's only because of my dream. Nerys tried to explain herself. Don't make excuses. From the very beginning, you never had any intention of breaking off the engagement. Just like dreaming of marrying into the ducal house. Dear, isn't that revolting? Her father nodded in agreement. The Countess is right. That foolishness of yours must be hiding some ulterior motive. Stop dreaming. Do you really think the Duke would pay attention to someone like you? The two of them continued to berate Nerys. If you do nothing but sit in a corner reading books and never go outside, how could you possibly understand reality properly? Please, try to be a little wiser. Faced with the cruel words of the very people who gave her life, Nerys could no longer hold back her tears. How? How can father say something like that? Duke Ian de Bridge has arrived. The announcement startled the couple. The Duke's tall figure appeared. With tearful eyes, Nerys looked up at him. She's my fiancée, Nerys Tapana. I have missed you very much. He smiled gently and held out his hand. A tear rolled down her cheek. Is this really Duke de Bridge? He's nothing like that little boy. Your Grace. Nerys' father cried out in alarm. There's been a misunderstanding with this engagement. Your fiancé is not Nerys. Duke de Bridge cast him a glance, still holding Nerys' hand. If I may, sir, I would like to speak with you for a moment. I will explain everything. I am very glad that your Grace has returned safely. Duke de Bridge sat comfortably in the chair at the center, while Nerys' father sat beside him, hunched over as he explained. I'm terribly ashamed to say this to you, just after your return, but... He laughed obsequiously while sweat poured down his face. When I wrote the engagement petition, I had drunk far too much wine. I was so heartbroken at the time that... Well, the Duke did not seem to hear a word of the man's excuse. He frowned and rested his chin on his hand, deep in thought. Father, what should I do now? Originally, I meant to treat Nerys' parents well. You may be my daughter, but unlike Katrin, you're truly disgusting. The familiar scene replayed in his mind. The Countess is right. That foolishness of yours must surely be hiding something wicked. So he had heard their entire earlier conversation. I want to change everything. I thought only Nerys' older sister disliked her. I never imagined her entire family was like this. Still, if he wanted to keep the engagement agreement secure, there was no choice but to endure this for now. I understand the situation. However, this marriage has already been approved by His Majesty. Nerys' father flinched. That is exactly why I am asking for your help, is it not? Your Grace's original fiancé was our Katrin. His face darkened. If you meet that child, you will surely change your mind. Let me think. It doesn't seem to have changed much. The war has His Majesty overwhelmed already. We cannot trouble him with something as trivial as this. Nerys' father's hand trembled nonstop. Damn it, I did as Katrin said. So why has it turned out like this? He thought. No, why wouldn't he agree to break off the engagement? Could it be? He stared in shock. Your Grace, are you pleased with Nerys? Duke de Bridge smiled. Unbelievable. How could that be possible? What? Well, if things are really like that, then I no longer need to beg for this engagement to be cancelled. Understand. Then let us do this. If your Grace does not mind, let both Katrin and Nerys remain here and observe them a little longer. The cunning man smiled slyly. And I will not take Nerys away immediately. Phew. Nerys, seated in her chair, let out a sigh. At last, Duke de Bridge has returned. He is the only one who can make my dream come true. And more than I imagined, he's even more dignified and handsome. Nerys covered her eyes with both hands. Pull yourself together, Nerys. Stop thinking such nonsense and focus on your dream. A knock sounded at the door. Yes, who is it? She asked. It's me, Ian de Bridge. Nerys brightly sprang up from her chair at his answer. She opened the door slightly and stepped out. Good evening, Your Grace. I'm sorry for coming so late. The Duke placed a hand to his chest in a polite gesture. Actually, I couldn't sleep, so I came at this hour. Nerys' face flushed. If you don't mind, would you like to take a walk with me? Shimmering light fell over the two of them. Wow! Nerys marveled blankly at the beauty around her. She looked all around in fascination while Duke de Bridge watched her instead. It's so wondrous. Even though we're outside, it's not cold at all. It's actually warm. She held out both palms as if to catch the air. Is there some special magic here? This is the magic of the first Duke, he said, while Nerys stared at him in confusion. I did not know exactly what kind of spell he cast, but only this place remains warm. Duke de Bridge smiled as he spoke. That is why you can enjoy this marvelous scenery all year round, and the air stays warm as well. Does that frighten you? Nerys smiled brightly. No, not at all. On the contrary, I'm delighted. I truly admire Lord Tita, the first Duke of the de Bridge family. I've read every single book he wrote, and I was completely astonished. Ian listened intently. He truly had profound insight into magic. Hearing you say that leaves me unsure what to do as his descendant. Thank you sincerely for the praise. Blushing, Nerys looked up at him. Norman told me that you were very interested in magic. It seems that was true. She nodded. Ah, yes. Nerys closed her eyes and pressed her lips together. Is it because I'm so nervous? Why is my heart beating so fast? Calm down, Nerys. She clasped her hands together. For the sake of my goal, I've imagined this countless times and practiced so hard. Now is the time to do it. Her eyes became resolute. Although I like magic, I want to study at Catlerwy. You may think I'm fickle, but I am very confident in mathematics. The accounting department at Catlerwy is both my goal and my dream. She quietly revealed what was in her heart. So I'm trying to receive your grace's support. That is not fickle at all, Lady Tapana. Nerys' eyes widened in surprise. There was a time when I also wanted to study at the academy, so I can fully understand how you feel. He smiled gently. Have you prepared your academy application yet? I will review it and give serious thought to whether I should help you. Nerys beamed, her whole face lighting up. Yes, I have. Well, may I show it to you? How about tomorrow morning in the library? She smiled. Yes, that would be wonderful. With a happy smile, Nerys placed a hand over her chest. Thank you so much, Your Grace. In the library lined with towering shelves, excuse me, Your Grace. I have just received an urgent message from His Majesty. Norman respectfully offered the letter with both hands. At this hour of the night, Ian took the letter. Yes, the messenger said I was to deliver it to you at once. What could have happened for him to send a letter directly like this? He opened it. As I said before, I will not revoke the engagement agreement, so rest assured. However, I now want you to keep Tyrant at your northern castle for a while. Not long ago, I received a report that she and the prince are plotting something. Until we know exactly what that scheme is, make it impossible for them to return to the capital. Duke de Bridge gripped the letter in his hand. As long as you do this, our alliance will never be broken. I promise you that. Huh. Everyone is so desperate because they cannot inconvenience me. What on earth is that woman plotting now? Damn it. If that is the case, then there is no choice but to keep that lowly woman in my castle for a while. I had planned to write the engagement agreement tomorrow. The vein stood out in his tightly clenched hand. I truly dislike that woman. Norman, have someone watch Tyrant immediately. Also prepare the communication tools so that orders can be carried out at once. Ian instructed. I will prepare everything immediately, my lord. He closed his eyes to rest. I only wanted to be alone with Nerys. I merely said I would consider supporting her, but she seemed so happy. Other than that, what else would make Nerys happy? What would make her smile even more brightly? His fingers lightly tapped against each other, moved closer slowly, and little by little narrow the distance, so that Nerys will not be startled. Duke de Bridge folded his hands and thought seriously. I can become someone Nerys likes. In the spacious room, Nerys' mother paced back and forth while her father sat drinking water. Stop fidgeting and sit down. He set his glass down on the table. That won't make Katrin come back any faster. She turned sharply, irritated. Are you not worried at all? I heard what Duke de Bridge decided yesterday. There's hardly anything in this castle that cannot be overheard except the guest rooms. He sat upright with a stern expression. So from now on, as your daughter said, treat her courteously as my fiancée. Otherwise, his gaze turned cold. You two will be held responsible for whatever happens after that. Nerys' father frowned. The master told me to keep quiet, that's all. I do not know why Katrin left at this time for what she called important business, but thinking of the Duke's eyes I saw yesterday. A perfect man, so unlike the rumors. Someone like that ought to belong to our Katrin. Why would the Duke be interested in Nerys? She clenched her hand in frustration. Dear, could it be that the Duke is thinking of marrying Nerys? He is clearly paying attention to her. What does it matter whom he marries, so long as that child gets the Duke's fortune? He grinned slyly. What matters now is that Katrin's business succeeds. She may be my daughter, but that child is truly astounding. I never imagined I would have a chance to trade with Delovis. If that child's business goes well, then we get both the Duke's fortune and Katrin's business profits. 2 birds with 1 stone. We must not ruin that. He rubbed the cup in his hands. My lady, Katrin is carrying out very important work that requires complete concentration right now. In any case, Katrin will return in a week. Must we really interfere with a younger one like this? Stop making such a fuss and calmly wait for our daughter. Pale light streamed through the windows and glittered softly. Duke de Bridge looked helpless. Lady Tapana, did you stay up all night because of this? Nerisse, with dark circles under her eyes, quickly denied it. No, I didn't stay up all night. I just went to bed late. I only slept late, really. Wasn't it because you were preparing this until very late? She had prepared not only the admission application, but even a thesis. It is excellent, but Nerisse grew flustered. From now on, please do not overwork yourself. I do not mind reviewing it slowly. Actually, I had already finished the application. I just wanted to refine the thesis more, so I stayed up late. This is my first time writing one, so I wanted to do well. To produce a first thesis at this level, I think you will become someone very capable. I was planning to let a passionate student like you experience it first before deciding how to help. Lady Tapana, why don't we try it once? Nerisse blinked. What do you mean by experience it first? The academy is a place where students are treated equally. Do you know the naming rule? It was a rule created for study regardless of social rank. Unfortunately, many noble students end up leaving school because they cannot adapt to this rule. So let us practice it in advance so that you can grow accustomed to it. Nerisse could not hide her surprise. That's great. If it's that, then I'm confident. Then imagine this is the academy. Call me by my name. Duke de Bridge smiled. Go on. Say my name. Come now. You know what my name is. The Duke's urging voice rang in the air, while Nerisse still had not recovered from her confusion. Of course I know, but, Your Grace, how could I call your name so casually? Seated across from him, she answered, This isn't even the academy. Nerisse. Ian's gentle voice came with a fond smile. It's easy, isn't it? Don't feel burdened. Just say it comfortably. Blushing, Nerisse hesitated. She clenched her hands tightly together. Ian. The moment her voice sounded, he smiled radiantly. That's right, Nerisse. Now let's practice something else. Nerisse smiled shyly. Do you know that the academy in the north often holds discussion classes? They are meant to broaden students' knowledge and teach respect for one another. I've heard that teachers evaluate students in every aspect through those discussions rather than through exams. So let us practice discussing mathematics and magic as well. She could not hide her excitement and delight. Yes, of course. It really feels as if I'm at the academy. I'm only a guest, yet he is looking after me this much. Duke de Bridge continued reading attentively. I'm truly so grateful to him, but something feels a little strange. But, Your Grace... No. Ian, I have something I'm curious about. Why are you treating me so kindly? Ian flinched. Thank you for helping me practice before entering the academy like this. But I heard from Jan that the reason you returned this time was to recover from your injuries. Your time is precious, so I worry whether it is really all right for you to spend it on me. Nerisse's face was flushed with concern. Please don't overexert yourself because of me. Duke de Bridge broke into a sweat. The reason I treat you well is because I feel sorry. I could not welcome you on your first day in this unfamiliar north. As your fiancé, I should never have allowed that to happen. His hand clenched tightly. It was rudeness that should never have occurred. No. Calling it rudeness is not right at all. Nerisse flusteredly waved her hands. You did that because you had to lead the army on the battlefield. His face was full of self-reproach. Even so, it was not a good experience for you. Only now am I finally able to say it. I am truly sorry. I told you it wasn't like that. Nerisse rose to protest. It was only because the timing was bad. I truly don't mind at all. I'm really fine, so please don't worry about it anymore. His expression darkened. I'm sorry I can't tell you the truth, Nerisse. I secretly came to see you because I wanted to. A memory surfaced. The Duke, masked, coming to see her while she slept deeply. And by chance, I learned your secret. Because I was worried, I came to see you every night. Before I knew it, I had begun to like you. In the memory, Nerys had even kissed him on the lips. The time I spent with you became an incredibly peaceful and precious memory to me. But that time could also become a deep wound for you. His hand tightened atop the table. I will tell you everything before I return to the battlefield. Even if you turn away from me then, I will have nothing to say. But for now, I'll leave things like this a little longer. Nerys. Ian closed his eyes in anguish. Please give me a little more time. Forgive me. He opened his eyes at her words. With both hands braced on the table, Nerys declared firmly, I forgive you. Of course, I'm not royalty, nor am I a judge, but I want to erase all your sins, Ian. In truth, I've always been grateful to you, Ian. When I came to the North, it was the first time in my life that I ever felt so comfortable. Images of Norman and Jan rose in her mind. I was so happy to meet many people and have so many wonderful experiences. So please don't apologize anymore or feel guilty anymore, Ian. His cheeks flushed, his face unable to hide his happiness. Thank you very much, Nerys. The warm glow of sunset spread over the vast, magnificent castle. Eastern Delovis, the capital, Vice. Imagzosta. I should go take a bath. The commanding silhouette of a long-haired young woman appeared. Crossing the border was a little difficult, but I made it to Delovis without any real trouble. As expected, I was absolutely right to discuss the magic stone business with Theo. With financial backing from the royal family, of course, the information and promises from Delovis's trade administrator were settled immediately. You couldn't find a better partner anywhere. From now on, my role is the most important one. Her slender hand took hold of a book. One eye beneath Catherine's hat came into view. Now, then, besides this magic stone project, what else exactly do I need to do in the kingdom of Delovis? And there was also trade with the Daybridge family. In the book she was holding, the following lines appeared. During the war, the kingdom of Delovis and the Daybridge family in the north engaged in extensive trade. Their main exports were leather and minerals, while their imports were primarily Delovis specialties such as spices, as well as silk and tea leaves, which had originally been the main goods in small-scale trade. The quantity had also increased significantly. Even while participating in the war, the Duke had continued to oversee commerce, and his magic stone business had become a hot topic among the nobility. Her eyes gleamed. I'll make that happen. They say the manager in Delovis is very strict, but Catherine closed the book. If my communication skills are good enough, nothing should be difficult. Thanks to being reborn, everything is going smoothly. She smiled smugly. If I succeed in business and trade like this, and then return to the north, I can wait for the Duke. In her imagination, Duke Daybridge smiled foolishly and called her name. Duchess Daybridge. Beneath the sunset, her whole body bathed in a crimson glow. Please return to the north quickly. Your future wife, Catherine. I can't wait to see him. Catherine Topana has arrived in the capital of the Kingdom of Delovis? The Duke asked after receiving the report. Yes. She is currently resting at an estate owned by the prince. The masked man continued reporting. Just as expected. What's she doing there? We have not uncovered that yet. We have heard that her appointment with Marquis Maximilian Hanto was successful. Ian rested a hand on his chin and thought. Marquis Hanto? Yes. After investigating the servants at the Marquis's estate, it appears they are busily preparing to receive a guest. The appointment is tomorrow afternoon. It will take some time, but I will try to infiltrate the Marquis's residence. Marquis Hanto dislikes and distrusts Judeum because of what happened in the past. Other than ties with his own family, he has no relationship with anyone else. So what is she trying to do by meeting the Marquis? No, I can't let her damage the connection our ancestors built with the Marquis. Marquis Hanto's subordinates are all weak. Focus on observing Catherine Topana. Moonlight shone over master and servant as they discussed matters in the room. Yes, your grace. And once her schedule there is over, when she tries to return here, interfere with her. I want her return delayed as long as possible. His gaze turned sharp. I will carry out your orders. Duke Daybridge looked at the stack of books on his desk. This will buy me some time to read my magic books and focus on researching them. Nerys happily held a sandwich in her hand. Her lips constantly curled in a bright smile. My lady, did something good happen? Jan asked as she approached carrying a plate of food. Nerys looked up at her. You've been smiling nonstop for a while now. The plate was piled with everything from toast, fried sausages, salad, fruit, and tea. Well, lately everything has been going smoothly. Nerys smiled. This morning, When I went to the dining hall, my parents were there. They told me to study hard once I entered the academy. Before her eyes was the image of her parents sweating nervously with fake smiles. Father even said that if we were too busy, we didn't need to eat together. Nerys was still sitting on the sofa eating cake, while Jan bent down to pour tea. Is northern etiquette different from the capital's? Of course, my lady. The north is very far from the capital, so the culture is a bit different. If you're curious, I can ask the butler to teach you. Nerys thought for a moment. If you know it already, it'll be very useful when you enroll at Catlerwy. As expected, the master really does intend to make this lady his wife. Of course, her bedroom is connected to the Duke's bedroom. After all, otherwise, why would he give her this room? At this rate, this young lady really will become the lady of House Daybridge. But in terms of appearance and basic noble etiquette, she's even less polished than Lady Katrin. But looking at how she always keeps up her basic manners in daily life, it seems she actually has more than enough natural grace. Why is she so different from Lady Katrin? Ian, would you look at this for me? Ian stood beside Nerys' seat, holding a teapot. Her slender fingers took the teacup and slowly raised it. So I already know the basics of etiquette, and I also know royal etiquette quite well. You taught yourself? All of it? Yes. When I was very young, I studied on my own at home for a short while. Then something happened, and my parents cut off all my other basic etiquette lessons. If the teachers see how ugly you are, what will you do? In her memories, her mother's venomous words echoed. I don't want to look at you like that, so hurry up and get back to your room. What was it again? No matter how hard I tried to teach myself, it was useless. She set down her teacup. Why? If she saw me acting noble, my sister would bully me. Katrin grabbed Nerys' sleeve. Every day, I had to keep finding excuses and pretend I couldn't do things. How could there be such a girl? She really shouldn't have done that, my lady. Even so, I think my social skills are still lacking. And I have bad memories about horseback riding too, so I never dare to learn. So someday, I want to learn to ride properly. And sometimes, I think about wanting to make friends. Nerys' face showed lonely sadness. You can do that now, my lady. Nerys looked surprised. Huh? How? You only need to ask my master. I'm sure he would gladly agree. Jan smiled brightly as she suggested it. I'll go deliver the message and come right back. Nerys blinked blankly. My lord? No, that would be a little. What is it? Do you feel uncomfortable? Oh no, that's not it. It just feels like I'd be troubling the Duke. I already owe him so much. And the Duke only recently returned from the battlefield. He must still be very tired. Jan spoke in a firm, serious tone. Please don't worry about that. I guarantee you my master will help you. There is no way he would find it troublesome. An image of the Duke working in his office came to mind. My master is, right, he likes teaching people. Nerys widened her eyes in surprise. When he sees someone improve through learning, he says he finds it very meaningful. So please learn horseback riding from my master. I'm sure he'll be very happy. When Ian appeared, leading a horse closer, Nerys let out a frightened scream. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I startle you? Duke Daybridge asked, flustered. And no, I'm fine. I'm sorry for screaming. You don't look fine at all. Could it be that you're afraid of horses? Nerys still had a hand pressed to her chest. I'm so scared. In her memory appeared the image of a horse rearing up. When I was little, because of my sister, I nearly fell off a horse, so even getting close to one feels difficult. Because of that, I never dared to learn to ride. Nerys squeezed her eyes shut. Every time that happened, my sister would. I was always so sad and regretful. Even now, her face still looked sorrowful. Then I'll show you how to overcome it, he said, looking directly at her. It's not too difficult, so try it with me just once. Ian smiled reassuringly. I'll help you overcome this fear. Under the clear blue sky, sunlight poured over the splendid estate. Greetings, Marquis Hanto. Katrin appeared in a beautiful dark green dress. It is a pleasure to meet you. So you are the lady whom the Prince of the Kingdom insisted I meet. I dislike wasting time, so let's get straight to the point, Lady Tapana. According to the Prince, you have some grand business proposal. And what might that be? Katrin smiled. It is a magic stone business. Katrin extended her hand. If you make use of our kingdom's abundant mineral resources, we can create valuable new products. I would like to propose that you, Marquis Hanto, cooperate with me in this new business venture, naturally alongside trade between our two kingdoms. Marquis Hanto folded his hands and said nothing, his expression cold. What do you think, Marquis Hanto? Would you like to work with me to make this business a success? Katrin stood with folded arms, smiling confidently across from him. Truly, how ridiculous. The Marquis's face turned stern. The kingdom of Judeum ruled over half of the vast continent of Terrace. The war between those two countries and the nation simply called the Western Kingdom had continued for a full year. What everyone thought would be a short war had far exceeded expectations and dragged on longer and longer. In the end, the finances of both kingdoms were steadily depleted. As the war dragged on sluggishly, Delovis, under the leadership of Duke Daybridge, who was himself fighting in the war, signed a major trade contract. Thanks to the steady trade with Delovis, goods once seen only in the distant eastern part of the kingdom were imported in large quantities. And gradually the kingdom's finances stabilized. Then, as the war drew to a close, the Daybridge family discovered a large quantity of magic stones in Ian and planned a new business. That was the magic stone business. Exquisite luxury jewelry was created by combining magic stones with other minerals. The accessories made with magic stones shone brilliantly, and people marveled at them. It was enough to enchant every noble in the kingdom, and everyone poured immense amounts of money into the Duke's hands. Everything Duke Daybridge did sent shockwaves through noble society. No one could look down on the North anymore. Such perfect, dazzling achievements. What's so ridiculous about that? As he lost his mind, Katrin's face darkened. In my previous life, the Duke definitely carried all of this out with Marquis Hanto. So why is he reacting like this? Marquis Hanto, what exactly is so amusing about what I said? Katrin forced a smile onto her lips. Are you so certain that our kingdom of Delovis would be willing to engage in trade with Judeum? That is why it is ridiculous. Surely, my lady, you have not failed to properly study the history between our two kingdoms? Katrin bit her lip in anger. That's not true. I studied it very thoroughly. In the past, the other kingdoms, including the kingdom of Judeum, suddenly canceled every agreement they had signed with Delovis. Because of that, the kingdom of Delovis faced a national financial crisis. To recover from it, we had to strive desperately to trade with the far eastern part of the continent. That's right. At the same time, our kingdom did not engage in any diplomatic trade with any other country on the continent of Terrace. Of course, except for trade with Duke Daybridge. Only that much. I have no intention of participating in trade with the kingdom of Judeum, so you should return home. Katrin sat speechless in her chair. How can he be this rude when I didn't know about this in advance? The Marquis sat with his eyes closed in rest, both hands braced on his cane. In my previous life, he accepted the Duke's proposal so easily, yet he's arrogant with me. Katrin ground her teeth in anger. I have to secure this business. She signaled for a servant to come in. Yes, if he sees this, he won't be able to stay so rude. The servant placed a thick stack of papers covered in writing on the table. This is the business proposal for the Magic Stone venture I just mentioned. I sincerely apologize for the harm our kingdom caused the kingdom of Delovis. But Marquis Hanto, all of that happened a very long time ago. We cannot miss this excellent opportunity because of the past, can we? For the development and harmony of both nations, please give this proposal your sincere consideration. The Marquis's eyes sharpened as he considered it seriously. The two sat facing each other across a tea table, and neither spoke for a while. Very well, I will consider it. In light of your sincerity, my lady, and Prince Telephilus's request, I will try to give you an answer as soon as possible. Katrin's eyes brightened, and she smiled in delight. Yes, I will await your answer. Outside the estate, a large ship sped through the waves with its sails unfurled. A white foal with a black mane appeared. This little horse is so small and adorable. Standing beside Duke Daybridge, Nerys gazed at it in admiration. Both the mother horse and the foal are very gentle, so they're suitable for practice. First, watch the horse from distance and try to overcome your fear of it. Ian looked at her gently as he spoke. Ah, yes. All right. It feels completely different from what I saw in the animal encyclopedia. How strange. The foal noticed her presence. With sparkling eyes, it walked closer, and Nerys was startled. Huh. It's coming closer. She broke into a sweat. Foals are very curious when they're young. This is probably the first time it has seen Nerys. Would you like to try touching it? Why you mean this foal? Behind the gate, the foal swished its tail. That's a bit. He said gently. If you approach slowly, it'll be fine. I'll guide you, so don't worry too much. Nerys still seemed hesitant. The foal behind the gate looked at her with shining eyes. That's right. The Duke said it was only a foal and that it had a gentle temperament. And he's right beside me. Even so, Nerys could not shake her fear. Oh, okay. What should I do? Don't make any loud noises. Just slowly hold out your hand like this. Duke Daybridge extended his hand, and the foal lightly rubbed its face against it. Then just keep it like this. Yes, I'll try. She said that, but she was still sweating. Her trembling hand stretched toward the foal. Ugh, I can't get any closer. It really is still too scary. The Duke reached out and gently supported her hand. Excuse me for a moment. With one hand, he held hers, and with the other, he rested a steadying hand on her shoulder. Don't tremble too much. Just slowly reach out your hand. Slowly now. Very slowly. His warm voice sounded right by her ear. Their joined hands finally touched the horse's head. She turned back to him with a radiant smile. I touched it. I am touching the foal, Ian. Duke Ian Bridge smiled. Well done, Near, he murmured near her hand. In the sunlit green garden, horses grazed calmly on the grass. Here, try eating this. Nerisse stepped toward one of the horses. The horse happily chewed the bundle of grass. She offered it. Haha, it's so cute. She smiled. Whenever I look at it, I think it's adorable. The Duke stood beside her, listening attentively as she spoke. You've got much closer to the foal now, haven't you? Nerisse smiled brightly. Yes. It really is a gentle little horse. For the past 3 days, every time I've come here, it's welcomed me. Her hand stroked the foal's head. I heard that foals usually run around a lot. That's because it really likes you, Near. She looked utterly surprised, though her hand continued stroking the foal. How does Ian know that? Because I like you too, so I can understand. Looking embarrassed, he scratched his ear as he spoke. Nerisse was startled, her cheeks flushing pink, unable to answer at once. Ian has come to like horses, so that's why he can understand how the horse feels. Nerisse rubbed her chin thoughtfully, seeing how Ian, who used to be afraid of horses, changed like this. Maybe I can come to like horses and ride them too. It's not that I dislike the foal. On the contrary, it's very cute. She bent slightly to face the horse. I'm just not quite there yet. Near, I want to introduce you to my horse. Ian pointed to a strong black horse in the stable. It really is a beautiful horse. The horse stood beside him, held by a servant and keeping some distance from her. This is my horse. Its name is Noxie. The horse stood there with pitch-black eyes. The Duke's hand slowly touched its muzzle. It has great stamina, and it's very brave too. I think you'll like this horse. What do you think? Nerisse smiled softly. Her hand gently reached toward Noxie's mouth. Hello, Noxie. The horse remained still under her touch. It seems Noxie doesn't dislike me. She said it with a smile as she stroked him. Then would you like to try riding him? His sudden suggestion made her freeze. Pardon? Try riding Noxie just once. He smiled. Near, I'll stay beside you and help. She relaxed her shoulders a little. Ian's hand lightly touched her shoulder and straightened her posture. Never let your weight tip forward. Now try to maintain this posture. Do you understand? The two of them sat together on Noxie's back. Nerisse sat in front holding the reins, while Ian sat right behind her, patiently instructing her. Yes, I'll ride the horse, and you only need to hold the reins lightly. Here, Nerisse turned to look at him. You mustn't go too fast. I'm still a little scared. The Duke looked at her. Of course, I'll go slowly. Noxie began moving in its first steady steps. Nerisse's face shone brightly as she sat on the horse's back. Wow, so this is what the scenery looks like from horseback. The little house and the endlessly green fields looked completely new to her. Are you still afraid? Nerisse answered, No, I'm not afraid anymore. It just feels a little unfamiliar. Then let's talk while we ride. Actually, Katlawai Academy has tried several times to establish a department of magic. Really? That's right. However, the magic professors from the academy in the capital have no intention of coming north. This is a field with limitless potential for growth, and I truly want to study magic in the north. But no matter how many excellent benefits I offer, everyone refuses. That's why I always feel regret when I think about it. Nerisse listened and thought for a moment. Ian, do magic teachers absolutely have to come from the academy in the capital? At her words, his eyes widened in surprise. As far as I know, the family is trading with the Kingdom of Delovis, a nation overseas. In the market, the Kingdom of Delovis is famous for its tea leaves, and that kingdom has also provided a great deal of support to the Department of Magic at the Royal Academy. If that's the case, then instead of inviting famous magic professors here, why doesn't the North support professors in the fields they lack? The Northern Academy is famous for mathematics and physics, isn't it? So if we make up for what the two academies are lacking, we could, Nerisse. You truly are talented. He stared at her intently as he said it. If it were you, perhaps you would become the North's finest talent. Me? How? That's right, because there aren't many northern officials who would think that way. It may be a little difficult, but if it's the kingdom of Delovis, he smiled, it's worth trying. Don't worry about the Academy's support. Nerys' eyes widened in surprise. I promise I'll support you fully, because I've seen your ability. Thank you very much, my lord. Ian, I'll study hard. And I'll do my best to build a connection between the academies as well. It may be difficult at first, but the north borders Delovis. Her hair fluttered in the wind. If we think it through together, I'm sure everything will work out. Ian lightly pressed his forehead against hers. You mean like this? Thanks to you, one of my greatest worries has been solved. He spoke while their foreheads were still touching. Thank you so much, Nerys. Thank you. How irritating. A pillow flew straight at the maid, Emma's face. It's already been 3 days, so why won't that man sign the contract? Catherine shouted, pointing at Emma. That is, Marquis Hanto is still reviewing it from various angles. Emma bowed as she reported. So, please give him a little more time, miss. How much longer does he need? Catherine ground her teeth in frustration. No matter what happens, I have to return north tomorrow. That stupid old man. Honestly, forgive my rudeness, Lady Catherine. I just heard news from Prince Telephalus. She spun around and shouted, What now, huh? The servant, flustered, held a newspaper in her hand. Today's Delovis paper carried an article about Duke Daybridge. A few days ago, the Duke returned north to recover from his injuries. Catherine's face turned suspicious. What did you say? In the study, a subordinate entered to report. Lady Catherine Tapana left the capital. Vice, this morning, sir. Hanto frowned, gave a snort, and said, At last, I won't have to receive that bothersome letter anymore. The subordinate tactfully continued, I'll keep watch until she crosses the border. Hanto set down the papers in his hand and replied, Very well. It will be enough to see Prince Telephalus's reaction. Resting his chin on his hand, he fell into thought. But I don't know what those crafty people in Prince Telephalus's circle are plotting. The other man spoke calmly. Lady Catherine Tapana is a famous figure in Delovis. She now lives in the north after accepting Duke Daybridge's proposal. But His Grace has never been involved in business matters. Hanto frowned and said nothing, lost in thought. He recalled what had happened earlier and thought to himself, a young lady like that came here with the prince's support, carrying a contract and a business proposal so perfect there was no room to criticize it. He suddenly thought, if it had been any other businessman, I would have accepted this proposal already. But then Hanto remembered Catherine's arrogant expression and those words of hers. All of that happened so long ago. We shouldn't miss such a good opportunity because of things that are already in the past, should we? Just thinking about it made him furious, and he slammed his hand on the desk. What an arrogant girl. Hanto continued pondering. She speaks as if she has no idea what hardships my country has endured. And on top of that, too many things are unclear. What made him suspicious was this. Why had such an ambitious woman not introduced herself as the fiancée of the Daybridge family? Hanto questioned the reason, and yet she was receiving full support from the prince, to the point that he had even written Hanto a letter to ensure the success of the transaction and business deal. At that thought, Hanto's brows furrowed even more deeply. I haven't said a word to the Duke. He thought again, does the Duke even know about this? No, whether he knows or not. It's certain that a young Duke inheriting his family and facing all kinds of trouble would be in a difficult position. Hanto suddenly clenched his teeth, feeling tangled up inside. If I keep thinking alone, I'll never get an answer. He opened the drawer and said helplessly, there's no other choice. Hanto took out a pen and began writing a letter, having made his decision. I can only ask His Grace directly. Under the bright blue sky, a delighted cheer rang out. Sitting on horseback, Nerys laughed happily. I did it, Ian. I rode Noxie on my own. Ian looked up at the girl above him and answered with a gentle smile. That's right. You did very well. Now, let's go a little farther. Nerys asked curiously. If we go farther, where are we going? Duke Daybridge patiently explained, clearly pleased. If we go a bit farther from here, there's a field of daffodils. Winter comes earlier in the north than in other regions, and daffodils bloom around this time. He softened his voice. So if we go now, you'll be able to see a view as lovely as spring. Ian asked, "Would you like to go?" Nerys looked thrilled and immediately answered, "Yes, I would." Sometime later, the sky turned overcast. A few flashes of lightning streaked across the sky outside the ducal residence, followed by a loud crash of thunder. Norman looked out the window and said in a low voice, "Ah, it's raining hard outside." As he rearranged a stack of documents, he added in disbelief, "The sky was clear just a moment ago." Norman was still muttering, "Goodness, I need to tell the servants at once," when Jan burst in from outside, throwing the door open with a bang. "Uncle, where's Janta?" Norman jumped, then cleared his throat softly and said, "If you mean Janta, she is currently carrying out His Grace's orders. And don't call me uncle while I'm working. How many times have I told you that?" To clarify, Jan and Janta are twins, and their uncle is the butler Norman. Jan answered irritably, "Uncle, now isn't the time to lecture me." Looking deeply worried, she went on, "His Grace and the young lady didn't take anything with them to shelter from the rain. What if they get soaked and catch a cold?" At that, Norman immediately replied, "If it's His Grace, he'll use teleportation magic." But then he suddenly stopped, as if remembering something. Norman finally understood his niece's worry. "I see. Since he's with Nerys right now, perhaps teleportation." Jan quickly cut in, "Exactly. He has to hide the fact that he can use magic, so they won't be using teleportation." Jan continued, "They plan to go to the daffodil field today." Norman frowned thoughtfully. If it's there, he made a guess. There's a small cottage that the gardeners sometimes use. He has probably gone there to take shelter from the rain. Norman calmly continued, "When he arrives there, he can use a magic device to send a signal back to the castle. So let's stay calm and wait for now." Only then did Jan feel a little reassured. She let out a soft sigh and replied, "Yes, I understand." Elsewhere, rain was still pouring down in sheets. A small wooden cabin stood in one corner, the very place Norman had mentioned. Ian was adjusting the fire in the fireplace, his whole body soaked through. Nerys ran over holding a towel and said worriedly, "Ian, hurry and dry yourself with this." Ian did not take it. In a gentle voice, he said, "Nerys, you use it first." Of course, Nerys refused. "But you're wetter than I am, Ian." Ian was still stubbornly insisting, "I'm fine," when Nerys suddenly draped the towel over his head. Cutting off whatever he had been about to say, she spoke with complete firmness. "If you're this soaked, there's no way you can be fine." Nerys dried his hair, her face full of worry as she softly reproached him. "It's because you lent me your coat that you got caught in the rain." She looked him over carefully and said, "Look, your lips are pale. I'm sure you'll catch a cold." Nerys continued drying his hair, but her mind was full of troubled thoughts. What should I do? He mustn't catch cold at a time like this. She frowned slightly, her face showing self-blame and regret. "It feels like this happened because I said I wanted a ride." Just then, Ian took the towel and draped it over her instead. Nerys' eyes widened in surprise. She stared blankly at the man before her. Ian said gently, "You need to dry yourself too." Then he carefully began drying Nerys' hair. As he did, he took the blame on himself. In a low voice, Ian said, I should have checked the weather before bringing you here." Ian's actions left Nerys utterly stunned. Before she could recover from her surprise, he looked straight at her with eyes full of concern and tenderness and softly comforted her. "You'll warm up soon. Until then, sit by the fire." Flustered, Nerys looked away and shyly changed the subject. Shouldn't we change clothes first? If we stay like this, we really will catch a cold." Ian seemed to realize it too. He stood up and walked to the other side. "Then excuse me for a moment." The fireplace, which Ian had carefully prepared, was now burning steadily, giving off a thoroughly comforting warmth. Nerys could only stare blankly at the fire before her. Her mind was filled with countless thoughts. A long while later, the rain outside still fell heavily. Nerys and Ian sat side by side beneath a blanket, warming themselves in front of the fire. Nerys suddenly thought, the rain just keeps going. Fortunately, our bodies are dry and warmer now, but is Ian really all right after being here this whole time? She was a little worried. Earlier, after getting caught in the rain, his face had gone completely pale. Nerys stole a glance at the person beside her and prayed silently, "I hope nothing's wrong." But only then did Nerys realize something. Ian had leaned over and was resting closely against her, as naturally as could be. After hesitating a little, she said, "If you're tired, lie down and sleep comfortably. I can rest somewhere else." With his eyes still closed, Ian answered softly, "No, it's fine. Stay here." That only made Nerys even more embarrassed. Blushing, she whispered, "But this is a little awkward." Ian remained leaning against her without moving and replied slowly and patiently, "If there's nothing beside me, it feels too awkward. Lately, because of that, I can't sleep." Curious, Nerys asked, "Why? Is something missing from your side?" What answered her question was Ian's drowsy voice. He murmured softly, "My teddy bear." Nerys blushed from the closeness between them, but Ian remained completely at ease, resting on her shoulder as he drifted into sleep. He continued, "The teddy bear that used to sleep with me disappeared. The thing I cherished most was my teddy bear." Outside, the sky was dark with blue-gray clouds, and the rain poured down beneath them. In the room, a boy lay on the bed looking exhausted, and a hand reached up to touch his forehead. Nerys sat down beside him, though he was lying on the floor. She murmured in relief, "At least he doesn't have a fever. Thank goodness." Then she thought to herself, "But what was that about the teddy bear just now?" Looking at him sleeping on the floor, she wondered, was he talking about his childhood because he was half asleep? The memory made her smile. Back then, he must have clutched that teddy bear tightly. Little Ian must have been adorable. In the room, the fireplace flames blazed brightly. Suddenly, she felt a pang of regret. If we'd known each other since childhood, I'm sure it would have been wonderful. Sitting down, her cheeks faintly flushed, Nerys thought, "Lately, thanks to Ian, I've been very happy. Someday I also." She closed her eyes, as if wanting to answer him. The scene changed, and the sky gradually darkened. Nerys stepped outside and seemed to see something. She stared blankly. "Where's this? Is this a dream?" She was utterly startled to see a young Ian clutching a teddy bear in his arms. Nerys couldn't help wondering. That child, could it be Ian when he was little? She fixed her eyes on the boy. Just as I imagined. He's so cute. Little Ian was holding the bear in his arms. The boy shut his eyes. Wait, what is this? No, run, Ian." Her feet felt nailed to the ground. "I have to save Ian." But her body would not move. Please let Ian out of there." Those currents of energy were gradually surrounding him. "Ian." She squeezed her eyes shut and screamed, struggling to move. Suddenly, a small light appeared. A beam of light from the sky shone straight down. Birds gradually flew out. The sun began to show itself, and the black clouds slowly drifted away. Tears still clung to the corners of her eyes as she looked up at the sky. Then a hand suddenly appeared and rested on her shoulder. "Don't worry, Nerys." Ian's voice calmly reassured her from behind. "I'm Fina. Don't worry so much. I'm all right. She reached behind her and touched his hand. "Thank goodness you're safe, my lord." That small light appeared in the sky, just then. "But if only I could have saved you when you were little. Next time, I'll definitely protect you." Nerys' expression darkened slightly, though her face was still faintly red. She slowly sat up and thought, has the rain stopped yet? Looking toward the fireplace, she saw only the remaining logs and suddenly came to herself. The fire has gone out. I need to light it again quickly. Just then, someone tugged at the blanket. Ian pulled the blanket up over her. She could not hide her surprise. Nerys, looking utterly startled, turned around with flushed cheeks. Since when have I been lying like this? Did I sleep here all night?" Ian had wrapped his arms around her from behind, and she was both startled and frightened. He let out a faint, sleepy sound. She only grew more flustered. He hugged her even tighter. Ian was holding her snugly from behind, and her entire face flushed red. I'll just think of it as horse riding practice. But it felt completely different from the way Ian usually taught her. Nerys. She tried hard to endure it, her cheeks still burning red. Outside, sunlight filtered through the leaves. The sky had turned clear, and trees surrounded the little house. What am I supposed to do? The scene changed. A carriage came to a stop, and a woman stepped down and walked toward a man. Catherine sat in the carriage irritably, wiping the corner of her mouth with her hand. Everything had been fine while discussing business with Marquis Hanto, but after that, everything had become a mess. Meanwhile, an old man sat leaning on his cane, sunk in thought in his chair. I need to return north immediately, but nowhere will rent me a carriage. In the end, I had to hire one to get to the teleportation gate station. She bit her finger anxiously, but all the routes going north are under maintenance. Behind the carriage, a mysterious hooded figure stood nearby. Catherine kept thinking, how did everything become such a mess? I have to go see the Duke as quickly as possible. Her face burned with anger. "While I'm stuck struggling like this." "Nerys," a girl suddenly hurried up, flinging open the carriage door in alarm and saying, "Something's happened, Lady Catherine." Catherine's emotions exploded even more, and she shouted, "What is it this time?" Emma stammered, sweating nervously. They said the horses are too tired to keep going, so we have to stay here for the night. And what good does telling me that do? Catherine, unable to control her anger, threw something straight at Emma's face. Emma hurriedly tried to dodge, but it was useless. What a worthless fool. Go borrow another carriage at once. If not, then at least bring me a horse. Sitting on the ground, Emma touched her head and looked toward the carriage, beside which sat Catherine's money pouch. Catherine screamed, pointing at Emma's face. "If you delay any longer, I'll strip you naked and throw you out on the road. So hurry up and go." The next day, the sun rose and shone over the mansion before them. "Lady Nerys, what do you think of this book? From among thousands of books, that one had been selected. This novel is quite realistic, so I think you'll like it. Would you like to read it with me, Lady Nerys?" She turned back to face Ian. "Oh, please don't address me like that," he asked in surprise. "But at breakfast, you call me your grace." Nerys' expression grew serious as she explained softly, "That was because my parents were there. I didn't want to draw suspicion." Ian smiled as he looked at her. "Count and Countess Tapana already know that we are moving ahead with things before the official schedule, so you may call me by name wherever we are." Nerys reached out and took the book from his hand. "I'm sorry, but I can't do that. When I think about our future, I need to show you proper respect." He looked at her in surprise. "Our future?" Clutching the book in her hands, she fell silent for a moment before replying. "There are only the two of us here in this room. I will finish my studies early, and, if possible, I want to become an official of the North and support you." The two of them walked together. "I truly want to repay your kindness for helping me, for always supporting me and giving me strength." Ian placed both hands on her shoulders, making Nerys flinch. "So you want to protect me?" Hearing him say that, she turned to look at him with startled eyes. That. A smile spread across his face as well. "I'm very grateful for your feelings, but from now on, I hope you'll call me by my name." At those words, her lips parted slightly as she looked up at him, still holding the book he had given her. She thought to herself, "This is so strange. Why does my heart race every time I look at Ian? And why do I always want to do everything with him?" Slowly, Nerys raised her hand and touched his face. Whatever this feeling was, her hand came to rest on his chin. Ian. The world seemed to stop, leaving only the two of them. Both of them leaned closer, their foreheads nearly touching. "What do you think you're doing, Nerys?" Suddenly, a woman standing nearby shouted. Her whole body trembled. What is going on here?" Her eyes blazed with anger as she frowned and glared at them both. "Explain yourselves." Right now, they were both startled, and that only made her angrier. "Why aren't you saying anything? Speak. What are you doing clinging so tightly to the Duke?" Hearing her mother's words, Nerys froze and hurriedly explained. "We were only discussing something. The Duke was helping me take notes for the academy exam." The woman's expression darkened at once, her brows knitting together. "Do you really think I believe that?" Seeing that, Ian stepped in to save her. Nerys learns very quickly. She is worth helping. Nerys lowered her head slightly, both cheeks flushed red. "No, it's only because the Duke taught me so kindly." Hearing her say that, he replied softly, "I'm glad to hear you say so." The two of them simply stood there, facing each other, their eyes meeting. The Countess could hardly believe what she was seeing. She raised a hand to cover her mouth, her face full of displeasure. Clutching the edge of her skirt tightly, Nerys asked, "But mother, why are you here?" "Today is my sister's birthday." The Countess didn't look pleased at all. "This morning, we received word that Catherine would soon be arriving at the Duke's residence. Even if she couldn't return home today, we are still family. We must at least congratulate her." Hearing that, Nerys turned to look at her mother. "Then let's celebrate my sister's birthday together." Yes, I will," she answered. Then her mother turned to Ian and asked, "If it does not trouble you, your grace, would you be able to join us?" He answered politely, "I must attend to matters concerning the territory at that time, so I'm afraid it will be difficult for me to participate." "My apologies, madam." Their conversation filled the room. If you're busy, then please go tend to your work. It's quite all right. I also have some time to rest." Seeing the situation, Nerys gently pushed him away. "Then please go and rest. You don't need to force yourself to stay here." He turned slightly to look back at her, but her face was red as she spoke to Ian in an almost pleading voice. You already pushed yourself for my sake the other day. I'm fine, so please go rest. You've only just recovered, and it would be dangerous to overexert yourself. Ian looked at her with warm, gentle eyes, a faint smile rising to his lips. Ian turned back and said politely, I understand. Madam, please excuse me. Her mother smiled as she replied, Ha! Yes, please go rest, your grace. The door slowly closed behind him. With a blank expression, Nerys asked, Mother, is there anything else? If not, then please excuse me. She had only taken a single step before a hand caught her by the wrist. The Countess seized her hand angrily and shouted, You! We clearly agreed that the engagement would be quietly called off, so why are you still acting so close to the Duke? She yelled and jabbed a finger at Nerys' chest. Nerys could only stand there and look at her in silence. Have you not thought about your sister at all? If Catherine finds out, do you know how deeply hurt she'll be? Stop acting like a child and grow up. Nerys closed her eyes and let out a sigh. Mother, my feelings on this haven't changed. Her expression slowly shifted, tinged with sadness. But why should I worry about my sister when she's out enjoying herself with friends? If she wanted to keep her position as his fiancée, then she shouldn't have left, don't you think? At those words, the Countess's face stiffened, then darkened. That, she thought to herself. That's right. Nerys doesn't know that Catherine left because of business. Catherine had asked her to keep it secret from both the Duke and Nerys until everything was certain. She couldn't reveal it now. When no answer came, Nerys turned away. When my sister returns, have her speak to the Duke about the engagement first. As for calling it off, I'll state my position clearly then. Behind her, the Countess stood frozen, her face devoid of emotion. The scene shifted to Ian's office. Inside, one of his subordinates was speaking to him. At the moment, Catherine Tapana is resting in Dway. She will likely arrive here tomorrow morning. The man continued, I could try delaying the carriage repairs so she returns even later. Ian closed his eyes and sighed. No, don't do that. He had already instructed him earlier to obstruct the carriage rental and delay her return under the pretext of maintaining the teleportation circle. If they went any further, it would arouse suspicion. Hearing that, Ian's subordinate replied, We can't cause any more trouble for the innocent coachman. Ian nodded. Withdraw now. You've all done enough. Yes, my lord. I wish you a peaceful evening. With that, he closed the office door behind him and left. Ian's hand lightly brushed the letter lying on the desk. Deep in thought, he picked it up and stared at it. Catherine Tapana was promoting trade in Delovis using newly discovered magic stones. There was a pleased look on her face, yet everything about it seemed suspicious. Her actions, a woman who knew nothing about business, and the crown prince's support of her. All of it was questionable. Holding the letter in his hand, he sank into thought. In truth, the king had never liked the crown prince, but now Ian understood why he had reacted so strongly this time. The image of Marquis Hanto's back appeared in his mind, his face thoughtful. In a letter, Marquis Hanto had also written that he could not understand Catherine's intentions. Still, Ian had not expected the Marquis to be so cooperative with him. As he put on his cloak, he thought, if I do this well, I may be able to build a closer relationship with him. A gentle, radiant smile spread across his face. Just as Nerys had said, the night sky was filled with countless bright stars. Out in the corridor, Nerys slowly approached where he was standing. Ian, have you been waiting long? He looked at her quietly before replying, No, thank you for coming. I only just arrived. She smiled warmly, brushing her hair back lightly. But why did you call me here? He pointed toward the hills ahead, toward the little houses at the foot of the mountain. Look over there, and you'll understand. Suddenly, a streak of light shot up into the sky in front of them. Then more followed, one after another, fireworks bursting upward and lighting the whole sky. The two of them stood there together, watching them explode overhead. Nerys' face lit up with delight as she stared at them. Wow, it's amazing. Those are fireworks, right? Seeing how happy she was, he turned back to her and answered, Yes, that's right. This is a gift prepared just for you. Hearing that, she could not hide her surprise and looked up at him. For me, she had overcome her fear of riding. Ian smiled at her proudly. I truly admire that. Receiving praise from him, her face turned pink. It's all thanks to you, Ian. He slowly stepped closer to her. Before, you gave me your forgiveness. Ian pulled her into a tight embrace. Fireworks continued blooming overhead, and her cheeks flushed deeply. "So, I wanted to repay you with something worthy of that." He whispered into her ear, "Use me in any way you wish. Whenever you need me, you may use me as many times as you like." She was utterly stunned by his words. His face appeared right before hers, wearing a sweet smile. "Will you accept this gift?" Her face, already red, grew even redder as she looked at him in silence. She remembered what her mother had said to her in the room. "Never be greedy. I try not to let my desires take over." The images from her memories kept surfacing, the two of them standing together. She looked at the fireflies in the sky while he looked at her. "He was never meant to belong to me, and my dream mattered more to me." She remembered his gentle eyes and soft smile fixed on her. "But he's too good to me." As the two of them grew closer, it was because he acknowledged her that ambition had begun to grow in her heart. Could she really let that ambition run free? Nerys suddenly came back to herself. Behind her, the sky was full of fireworks, and her face was full of hesitation. "Yes, I accept." Hearing her answer, joy filled his heart. The two of them stood facing each other while fireworks burst brilliantly overhead, leaving only their silhouettes beneath the terrace. "Thank you, Ian." In Reese, a major northern city, Catherine asked, "Emma, are you sure we can reach the castle today without any problems?" The maid replied, "Yes. If you finish eating and depart right away, we should arrive around noon." After hearing her maid's words, Catherine ordered, "Good. Then brush my hair again now." Looking at the meal before her, she laughed inwardly. The journey was rather tiring, but the closer she got to the castle, the more peaceful she felt. She remembered losing her temper and shouting in anger and felt a little regret. Thinking about it now, she had acted too hastily. It would not have been too late to meet the Duke, become his fiancée, and then leave. Then she recalled her deal with the Marquis and guessed to herself that Marquis Hanto had probably already begun handling the magic stone business by now. At that moment, Emma was brushing Catherine's hair. Catherine pushed aside that earlier thought. "No," he said he was still considering it. "So, I probably have to wait longer." Since he didn't reject it, it won't be too late to return after I become Duke Daybridge's official fiancé. Thinking of Nerys, she frowned. "But I'm a little worried about Nerys." "Huh, what could that fool possibly do?" The image of Nerys meekly enduring every bit of mistreatment came to mind, and Catherine felt a trace of contempt. At most, she'd stay silent the whole time and only manage to say she wanted to enter the academy. And now father and mother are there supporting me too. They must have already handled Nerys themselves. Catherine made up her mind. It's fine. Everything can still be fixed. Looking at her own beautiful face again, she thought confidently, now I just need to focus on pleasing the Duke. Then Nerys appeared and greeted her calmly. "You're back, sister. I heard you would be returning today, so I came by." Catherine stared at the person before her in shock. Seated on horseback, Nerys praised her. "You're still as beautiful and dazzling as ever. Even after 10 days apart, you haven't changed at all." Catherine clenched her teeth. Though stunned, she felt a flicker of fear and stammered. Why are you riding a horse like that?" Nerys sat proudly and confidently on the horse, stopping right in front of Catherine. She said happily, "I learned from Duke Ian Daybridge." Catherine went numb at her words. Once inside the residence, Catherine went straight to the room where her parents were and demanded loudly, "I told you to take care of Nerys. Not only did you fail to stop her, you even let the Duke teach her how to ride." The Countess Tapana looked somewhat guilty, while the Count only glanced at her. She kept raising her voice and pointing at them. "What exactly have the two of you been doing? You couldn't even manage to call off the engagement or persuade the Duke about it. The situation has only gotten worse. How are we supposed to deal with this now?" Countess Tapana asked in return. "Catherine, are you really afraid that the Duke will be stolen away by Nerys? The nobles in the capital practically beg for him. Do you really think someone like Nerys could take the Duke from you?" Catherine froze. The Count closed his eyes and said, "Your father has already cast aside his pride and asked the Duke to rewrite the engagement agreement. But with the war going on, even that was difficult." Count Tapana rose to his feet. "I've done all I can. We should return home now." He walked to the door, paused in front of Catherine, and added, "I trust you'll handle the rest well." The door shut. Catherine clenched her trembling hands, trying to stay calm as she asked, "Mother, why is father suddenly acting like this? What happened?" Looking at Catherine anxiously, the Countess began to explain, "The thing is, This morning, your father spoke with Duke Daybridge. The Duke gave us a large sum of money to support the business. He said he hoped your father's project would succeed as a gesture of encouragement. The Countess gripped her skirt tightly in frustration and cried out, "Catherine, I did everything I could to stop this. I tried to persuade your father, but he was afraid of angering the Duke." Her eyes filled with tears of resentment. "I even warned Nerys not to covet your fiancé, but that little vixen completely ignored me." She went on, "I never imagined such an ungrateful child was my own daughter. I must have raised my daughters the wrong way." Catherine fell silent, about to say something. She thought of her family, her father, who valued money more than his children, and her mother, who did nothing but complain. How foolish it was to entrust her life to people like them. She bit her finger bitterly. "I have to set everything right now. I'll fix it all myself." Her whole body trembled. She had to take back what was hers. The next morning, because she had arranged to meet Catherine at the greenhouse, Nerys felt a little uneasy. Catherine called out cheerfully, "Come here, Nerys." Nerys was slightly surprised by how enthusiastic she sounded. Catherine beamed warmly. "I was worried you might not come, but you did. I'm so happy." Taking Nerys' hand, she pulled her along and said, "I prepared lots of snacks you like. Come on, let's eat together." Nerys stared at her in shock and thought, what is this? Why is she suddenly acting so friendly? I thought the moment she returned, she'd summon me just to scold me. Wasn't that how it was supposed to be? Looking toward the nobleman seated before them, Catherine spoke. "Your Grace, forgive us for keeping you waiting." Pulling Nerys closer to her side, Catherine smiled and said, "Even though you're so busy, you still came, and yet we made you wait alone." Linking arms with Nerys, she added familiarly, "My younger sister can be like this sometimes, so I hope you'll overlook it." Hearing Catherine speak about her like that, Nerys lowered her eyes and thought, "Oh, so I'm not the target. But then why call me here? If Ian is the real target, why bring me too?" Once everyone had taken their seats, Catherine spoke again. "Father, everyone is here now, so there's something I would like to ask His Grace." Then she turned to him. "What kind of person is your ideal type?" Duke Daybridge repeated, "My ideal type." She nodded. "Yes, I've been curious about it for a long time, so I truly want to hear it this time." He thought for a moment, and she prompted him, "Is it difficult to answer?" The Duke replied, "It may take a while. Would it be all right if I say everything?" Catherine's face brightened. "Of course. The longer it is, the more curious I become. Please, speak as freely as you like." Ian recalled it and began. "First, someone who kissed me first before I had the chance to avoid it." Both Nerys and Catherine were startled by how bold the woman he liked sounded. He continued, "And someone who thinks my arms are the most comfortable place in the world." Smiling softly, he said, "I hope she'll be someone like that." In that same warm voice, he repeated, "And someone who thinks my arms are the most comfortable place in the world. I hope she'll be like that." Nerys widened her eyes. His arms. She remembered Catherine once saying something similar. Back then, while beside Catherine, she had heard her say that when you love someone, you shouldn't just stay silent and wait. Even for a kiss, you should be more proactive. Nerys thought to herself, "At first, I thought that sounded ridiculous." But now Ian was saying the same kind of things. Ian's face turned slightly red with embarrassment. Catherine laughed. "Oh my, the Duke's ideal type is quite forward. Is there anything else?" Ian replied, aside from that." He thought of the kiss he and Nerys had shared. "I want to hear that person tell me I am the one they love most and that they will cherish this northern land with me. And sometimes, it would be wonderful if there was someone who wanted to protect me." An image of Nerys smiling brightly appeared in his mind. Catherine was stunned. Protect the Duke? What do you mean?" Ian answered seriously. "That's right. Once is not enough. Twice would be just right." Katerina replied, I'm not sure there's anyone strong enough for that." Nerys sat silently, sipping her tea. She thought to herself, "Ian is like that, and so is my sister. Everyone has their own ideal type." An ideal type. I don't remember mine clearly anymore. But I do remember how excited I felt when that magic book turned into a person. The feeling seems a lot like what I feel with Ian. Ian smiled faintly. There is a woman like that. My ideal type isn't far away." He looked at Nerys. "She's very close, right beside me." A few hours later, Nerys was stretching up to take a book from the study shelves. She thought, what was that this morning? My father, the man I thought would force me home no matter what, for the first time encouraged me and then left. She remembered him saying to her, "Do your best and fulfill your dream." Nerys stood there deep in thought. What on earth happened? He was never like that before. Did something happen that I don't know about? Is there something I'm unaware of? Just then, someone approached. Then a voice spoke. Talking to yourself again? Nerys turned around. Catherine, irritated, said, Honestly, how can you be so cold? Mother and father just left, and you immediately went off by yourself. I've only just returned after 10 days. Why are you acting like this? Nerys asked, puzzled. What is it? Catherine replied, Here, look at this. Nerys took the paper and read it. Catherine explained, This is the business plan for accessories made from magic stones. I'm planning to carry it out soon, and I wanted to hear the opinion of someone studying magic. Nerys thought, Did my sister come up with this? Combining magic stones with other minerals to create new gemstones. And not only that, imbuing each mineral with different kinds of magic, then crafting them into accessories to sell. This is very similar to what I once imagined. When I was studying alone, I often thought about combining magic with other techniques. So it wasn't just me who thought of such things. But why is my sister interested in magic? Catherine smiled. What do you think of the plan? No les ensueldes? If you could get help from the person most skilled in magic, then it might become an excellent plan. Catherine said, Right? I came up with all of it myself. I've always been thinking about how I could help the Duke. If it weren't for him, I never would have come up with this plan. In fact, this recent trip was also because of it. And when I started working on Indolovis, I became completely absorbed in it. Her eyes turned sly and ambitious as she continued. There's a clear difference between a perfect, capable duchess and, well, someone else. I heard the Duke supported the Academy, but you do know he did it to nurture talented people, right? Nerys listened in silence. Teaching you how to ride was just part of training you to become more capable. It didn't mean anything else. Catherine smiled. Proof of that is the ideal type the Duke mentioned yesterday. He likes women who boldly kiss first. The Duke seems to be very open-minded. Completely unlike you, who are always so stiff. Nerys lowered her head. Catherine added, You understand what I mean, don't you? So from now on, with the Duke, before she could finish, Nerys cut her off. Sister, are you jealous? Catherine's face darkened. What did you just say? You're jealous, aren't you? Nerys frowned. Like you said, I may not be the Duke's ideal type, but while you were away, I studied with him at the Academy, and I even learned horseback riding from him. Thanks to that, I've changed a lot. Nerys smiled brightly. Honestly, I'm just grateful. Inside, she thought, if this were the old me, I definitely would have been left behind. But because Ian never looked down on me, because he supported my dream, and because he worked so hard to help me, I was able to change. From now on, I won't be afraid or feel pressured by anything ever again. Absolutely not. She thought of the moments she had spent with Ian. As Nerys headed for the door, she said, Let's talk like this more often. Next time, let's have tea together and relax. Slowly, she opened the door and walked out, leaving Catherine frozen in place, clutching the paper tightly in her hand. Elsewhere, a voice rang out. Forgive me for coming so late, Father. I heard you did not attend the State Council meeting today, so I was worried and came to see you. The blond man, seated on the throne, frowned. Didn't come to assassinate me, did you? Theophiles replied. How could I ever harm my one and only father? I have never once had such thoughts. The king gave a cold laugh and thought, shameless bastard. A year ago, in opposition to the Western Kingdom's brutality, he had deliberately stirred up war. He himself was only a strategist, yet he brazenly drove his younger brothers onto the battlefield and let them die. On top of that, he resembles the queen too much, which makes me uneasy. As expected, he is the very seed of rebellion. The king frowned in anger. I need to get rid of him as soon as possible. He spoke. Very well. Then what is your purpose in coming to see me? Are you truly worried about me? Theophiles smiled. I wish to propose a ceasefire with the Western Kingdom. The king sneered. A ceasefire? You ignored all opposition and started the war, and now you speak of ceasefire. Are you not ashamed before the younger brothers who died in that war? Theophiles smiled faintly. I am ashamed. That is why I intend to correct my mistake now. The king's face hardened as he said seriously, Then march out immediately. Bring back victory in honor of the younger brothers and subjects who died because of you. If you do, I will immediately pass the throne to you. Theophiles remained expressionless. In the room, the two faced each other. Theophiles turned away. No matter what you say, Father, I will sign a ceasefire agreement with the Western Kingdom. So stop this and hand the throne over to me. As for marching to war, I may consider it if the agreement is broken." The king's face darkened. Theophiles opened the door and stepped out without looking back. "Father, I pray you remain in good health." In another room, a voice sounded. "So, the crown prince is planning to push for a ceasefire?" Hartman appeared within the orb and said, "Yeah, looks like this high-level conference is putting serious pressure on that issue. Honestly, who knows what that bastard is plotting now?" Ian replied, "That's why His Majesty contacted me as well." Hartman asked, "His Majesty contacted you?" Ian said, "Tonight, he suddenly sent me an urgent message." The contents were much the same as before. Because the Crown Prince's movements seem unusual, he repeatedly instructed me to keep Catherine Tapana firmly inside my castle. Hartman ran a hand through his hair. He really is making excessive use of other people. What on earth did that woman do that he's telling you to keep her locked up in your castle? Ian explained. She and the Crown Prince were planning to carry out a trade agreement with Marquis Hanto, who oversees commerce in Delovis. I heard it also includes some kind of groundbreaking business venture. Resting his head on the desk, Hartman muttered, "Is that bastard really planning to sell off his conscience and judgment too? Marquis Hanto definitely won't accept easily. He hates our kingdom," Ian said. "Then he must have some sort of certainty. So what do you think? Does it look like there'll be a ceasefire?" Hartman replied, "Half and half. We only won the last battle because of you. So there are quite a few forces arguing that we should press on until the war is finished. But whether it's ending the war or agreeing to a ceasefire, neither decision will be easy. Because no matter which path is chosen, the Western Kingdom's black magic remains an obstacle. Right now, they're wary of us. If they use that bizarre black magic again, there's no telling what the next battle will look like, since they're more skilled in magic than our kingdom." Ian said, "For now, we need to gather more information." Hartman answered, "I'll investigate further too. Ah, and one more thing. Your leave has been extended." Ian asked, "Extended?" Hartman explained, "Yeah, the commander-in-chief actively supported it in today's military meeting. So this time, they're planning to claim the credit for themselves. You did everything in the last battle to tip the situation in our favor." He smiled and continued, "So, since that's the case, this time I'll stay out of it and just observe. What do you think?" Ian replied with a smile, "If a capable guard says so, then I suppose that's how it should be." Hartman answered, "All right then. Enjoy your time with your fiancé, Duke Daybridge." The orb went dark. Ian fell into thought. My leave has been extended. It looks like I'll get to stay by Neree's side a little longer. But Nerese, he looked toward the door. She still didn't come to see me today. Since I returned, she hasn't come to see me at night, even once. For a while, I thought her sleepwalking had been caused by Catherine Tapana. But now that Catherine is back and Nerese still isn't coming to my room, I suppose that wasn't it. I am hopeless. And I actually used that nonsense about my ideal type to tell Nerese about that night. In any case, Nerese doesn't remember it. And on top of that, I even feel disappointed that she's recovered. Congratulations on being cured of your sleepwalking, Nerese. I hope your nights are peaceful." He laughed quietly to himself. A little later, Ian walked to her room. A voice from inside called out, "Your Grace, please come in." Catherine stepped out with a bright smile. "You must be busy, and yet you still came like this. Thank you very much. I prepared tea and a special dessert to celebrate your safe return, Duke. I'm sure you'll be pleased." Ian's eyes turned thoughtful. There were only 2 cups of tea. He asked, "When is your sister coming?" Catherine replied, "Oh well, Nerese seemed too busy, so I couldn't invite her." Catherine looked sorrowful. "So this time, it seems it will be only the 2 of us." "That won't do." Ian remained expressionless. Inside, he thought I was tricked. What's she trying to do this time? Judging by her recent behavior, there is no way this is anything normal. Last time, when we spoke in the greenhouse, she was very skilled at steering the conversation and grasped the relationship between Nerese and me. So I assumed she would try something this time as well. He stared at Catherine. "Where's this all?" Catherine spoke. "I heard you spent a great deal of time with Nerese while I was away." She put on a wounded expression, eyes brimming with tears. "Even so, can't you spare a little time for me as well? Please? Even just a little." Ian shut his eyes tightly, unable to say anything for a moment. He thought, I've already received His Majesty's orders, so I can't do that. Reluctantly, Ian said, "I don't have much time for tea. If there's something you want to say it now." Catherine smiled. She said, "First of all, I'm sorry for greeting you so late. Because just as your grace returned, I had to leave for the kingdom of Delovis. The truth is, I went there to propose a business project to Marquis Hanto. Catherine smiled faintly. It's a magic stone business. This is a project I carefully planned for your sake, Duke. As your fiancé, I also wanted to be of help to the North. Ian looked at her with a blank, unreadable gaze. Catherine continued, I'll explain the project in detail. Before she could finish, Ian cut her off. Miss Tapana, his face was completely expressionless. I think it will be difficult for me to treat you as my fiancé, so there is no need for you to make such efforts for my sake. Catherine's face darkened with sadness. She gave a faint smile and said, Oh, why is that? My family chose me as the Duke's bride-to-be, so isn't it only natural for you to treat me as your fiancé? Earlier, when I spoke with Count Tapana, his attitude was such that it seemed he didn't care who the person was. There's no way my father would be like that. Catherine clenched her hand. She was suddenly startled. If that's true, then it means the Duke chose Nerys. Catherine lifted sorrowful eyes toward Ian. Ian said sternly, as expected of someone famous in high society, you truly are quick-witted. Then you already know my feelings clearly as well, don't you? Catherine thought bitterly. How could I not? Back then, you kept looking at that girl like that. Your gaze was so affectionate, so gentle, anyone would have noticed. But it was nothing more than a pointless concern. Her expression suddenly changed, her brows tightening in anger. I can't lose to feelings like that, she said. But from what I heard, my father was never told that you wished to marry Nerys. So I thought the Duke was still undecided, wasn't he? Ian hesitated. That. Catherine smiled with satisfaction and thought, look at that. The Duke is still hesitating. If that's the case, I still have a chance. She went on, Duke, I had a very difficult time in Delovis. I worked incredibly hard to sign the Magic Stone project so that the North could develop even more than it does now. Even after all that effort, will you still refuse to hear even one request from me? Ian asked, What exactly are you saying? Catherine suddenly pressed forward. Please let me remain in the castle until the war ends. I want to stay by your side for as long as I can, even if it's only a little. She stepped close to Ian. That is the only thing I want. Catherine reached out and wrapped her arms around Ian's neck. You'll agree, won't you? Then she leaned close to his ear. Please? Won't you? At that very moment, the door suddenly opened. The sight of Catherine sweetly embracing Ian appeared before them. And Nerys, standing outside the door, flinched in surprise, her face darkening slightly. In the room, the fire in the hearth crackled brightly. Catherine sat in a chair beside the fireplace, reading a book. As she read, she thought, no matter how I think about it, I still can't understand it. His ideal type was clearly someone who would kiss him without the slightest hesitation. Then why did he push me away? Catherine recalled the scene. Ian had pushed her aside and turned his face away. She thought again, and on top of that, his reaction was unbelievably flat. The image returned of Ian turning away and saying, I understand. I'll do that. She thought, why on earth did he react like that? Catherine brooded. Strange. Not a single man has ever reacted that way to me before. Could it be because he cares about Nerys? The scene returned again, Catherine smiling as she saw Ian off. Then I'll see you again later. Duke. The door closed, and she exclaimed, Oh dear, you came at just the right time. But what should we do? The Duke said he has work to attend to now. We'll have another tea party another time. Really, the Duke. I never expected him to be so bold. Nerys remained expressionless, listening in silence. Catherine smiled faintly and continued, Perhaps when he imagined that one day I would become the flower of high society, he simply couldn't restrain himself. As expected, the Duke's standards are that high. Catherine smiled slyly. Nerys said nothing and silently walked past her. Back in the present, remembering all that made Catherine laugh happily. I didn't expect the girl to freeze up like that. At this rate, isn't she so naive it's almost idiotic? Alone in the room, she giggled to herself. Then she thought, during the 10 days I was gone, she had the nerve to act proud just because she got to stay close to the Duke. And yet something this small shocked her that much. How ridiculous. Well, it's a little disappointing that I didn't get to kiss the Duke. Catherine raised a hand to her mouth and licked her lips. Since we're at it, maybe I should properly teach Nerys a lesson. She smiled faintly. In other words, I can cut off that foolish attachment of hers. Staring at the orb before her, Catherine said, This time, let's learn how to live properly. My little sister. Elsewhere, the sound of horses' hooves clattered. Ian and Nerys were practicing horseback riding together. Nerys worriedly thought, what should I do? I just can't forget what happened yesterday. Maybe I saw it wrong that day. She recalled Catherine saying, I never expected him to be so bold. Perhaps when he imagined that one day I would become the flower of high society, he simply couldn't restrain himself. Gripping the reins, Nerys thought, the flower of high society. It's true. The position of Duchess suits my sister perfectly. Ever since childhood, she has regularly attended gatherings of high society and gradually built her reputation. As for me, I stayed in my room reading all day, so I couldn't even attend my debut. And on top of that, I used to sleepwalk. If Ian were to find out about that, she recalled one thing after another, sinking deeper into thought. Then a voice suddenly interrupted her, making her flinch. Nerys, Ian asked, are you all right? You don't look well. If you're not feeling well, we should go back. Nerys forced a smile. No, I'm fine. Really? Lowering her head, she added, I was just thinking about the paper I showed you before. It's nothing important. Please don't worry too much. Ian looked at her in surprise. Sometime later, dazzling sunlight poured down. Nerys sat on a bench looking out at a yellow flower garden. She thought, wow, I never imagined there would be a place this beautiful. The North really is a very beautiful place. She glanced at Ian, who was stroking the horse, and wondered, but why did he come here with me instead of with Sister Catherine? Could something have happened between them that I don't know about? Ian suddenly turned to look at Nerys. Then he approached and asked, are you cold, Nerys? She stiffly turned her face away and replied, no, not at all. After coming to the North, I've become much healthier, so I can handle this much cold. Interlacing her fingers, Nerys continued, I used to get sick often when I was home. If the old me could see me now, she'd probably be shocked. Ian looked at her with deep concern. He moved closer and spoke. Nerys, did I do something wrong? Nerys looked puzzled. Pardon, Ian said, you've been avoiding my eyes this whole time, and you don't seem happy. If I accidentally hurt you somehow, then you absolutely have to tell me. Lightly touching her fingertips, he continued, I want us to be closer. I don't want there to be distance between us. Absolutely not. Ian clasped her hand tightly and looked at her. Nerys didn't know what to say. After hesitating for a moment, her expression darkened as she asked, Ian, are you going to marry Sister Catherine? Ian froze for a moment. What do you mean by that? Nerys answered, actually, I know I shouldn't have, but yesterday I saw you with her in the drawing room. She called me there, but at that moment, you and she. Ian frowned, angrily thinking that woman. She suddenly came close to me, and this was what it was about after all. I can't believe she pulled something so ridiculous. What a vile woman. Ian explained, Nerys, there's only one person I want to be close to. There is no one but you. That day, nothing happened between your sister and me. Nerys blinked blankly. He continued, you may not believe me, but it's the truth. And besides, I'm not the sort of man who goes around casually kissing just any woman. I have no interest in your sister whatsoever. The only person who can be my fiancé is Nerys, so please don't misunderstand. Nerys pressed her lips together. She thought to herself, I'm definitely not famous in high society like my sister, and I'm not capable enough to launch some grand business project. But at the very least, Nerys turned and pushed herself up. I like Ian so much that I won't lose. Absolutely not. Nerys gently kissed Ian, leaving him frozen in shock. The two faced each other. Blushing, Nerys said, I like you very much too. But could you give me just a little more time? I want to give you the best answer I can. Ian reached out his hand. She continued, I'll try to answer you as quickly as possible. Beneath the blazing sunlight, in that peaceful, picturesque scene, the two shared a sweet kiss. With his eyes shut tight, savoring the moment, Ian finally pulled away and replied, all right, I'll wait for you. The two embraced tightly, and Ian kissed Nerys on the head as he said, no matter how long it takes. In the palace, a voice rang out. No matter how I look at it, I simply cannot understand. A brown-haired man said, Your Highness the Crown Prince, if you could not forgive the Western Kingdom's provocative actions, then it was you who declared war despite our opposition. So why are you now saying we should stop the war? What exactly made you change your mind? Theophilus merely folded his arms and smiled faintly. Then he suddenly broke into a bright smile and said, It is shameful that, because of my own narrow foresight, I failed to anticipate the war dragging on this long. They were more adept in magic than expected, so the war has stretched on for over a year, and as a result, the nation's finances have deteriorated as well. If this continues, The people will bear the full burden of the damage. To prevent that, I believe it would be best to end the war. I wish to discuss this matter with you all. A silver-haired man sprang up. This will be settled at once if we seize half of the Western Kingdom's territory. The brown-haired man beside him nodded in agreement. Exactly. I am completely against ending the war when victory is right before us. How filos somai fili? As he stepped out of the room, a voice called out, "You've worked hard, Your Highness." Theophilus asked, "How is Giovanni?" The guard replied, "My apologies, Your Highness, but they still haven't completed it yet." Theophilus showed his displeasure. "Why am I surrounded by such useless things?" As he walked, he said, "Activate the magic circle at once. We're going to see that old man." Elsewhere, a long-haired old man with a long white beard was writing something. Beside him were a blue-haired boy wearing glasses and a little girl carrying tea, who said, "Master, please have some tea." He replied, "All right, thank you, my child." The boy with glasses said, "Master, please stop and get some rest. You've been overworking yourself lately." The old man smiled kindly and replied, "Ho ho, you children should hurry and go to bed. You're still growing, and staying up late isn't good for you. Don't worry about me. Off you go." The boy objected strongly. "Master, please, this time you really must rest." The little girl added, "That's right. Why are you telling us to do something that extreme? Have you lost your mind?" The old man said softly, "My children, I'm sorry, but that..." Suddenly, the door flew open. A voice rang out, "Oh, so you have time to leisurely sit around drinking tea?" All three turned in shock. Theophilus stepped forward with a faint smile. "Then today I'll be hearing the answer I want, correct?" The old man spoke up. "I am sorry, Your Highness, but the magical device you requested is still not finished, so I beg you to wait just a little longer." Theophilus reached out and seized him by the throat. His two pupils gasped in shock. "Master," but they were blocked by the swords of the guards. Leaning in close, Theophilus said, "Giovanni, you've read enough books to sit in the seat of Archmage, so shouldn't you be doing something worthy of it? It's because of your talent for crafting magical artifacts that I've let you live in comfort. Or have you started to think your life is too long?" The old man's face turned purple as he gasped out with difficulty, Please, spare me." The boy screamed in terror. "Master," the little girl bowed low and dropped to her knees as she said, "Please calm your anger, Your Highness. The magical artifact's effects vary from person to person, so he has been making adjustments for that." Theophilus turned to look at her, and the girl continued, "Within 1 week. Please wait just 1 more week. I swear we will finish it within that time." He released the old man and let go. Then he said, "So the pupil is more capable than the master, is she? Very well. In my generosity and magnanimity, I shall grant you 1 more week. However, this time, you must keep your word." The two of them remained collapsed on the ground. Theophilus continued, "Only then will I be able to have tea with your useless master again." Elsewhere, Nerys and Catherine were seeing Ian off. Catherine said, "I hope your territorial inspection goes smoothly, Duke Daybridge." Her face was flushed. "We only just met again, and now we have to part like this. My heart feels ready to burst. Your injury may have improved, but please still take care of your health." Ian looked utterly indifferent. She continued, "I'll write to you every day." Ian replied, "I want a time to read them, so don't." Standing beside them, Nerys watched and thought, "Oh dear, this is the first time I've ever seen my sister cling to a man like this. It's only a few days of territorial inspection." Nerys recalled what had happened earlier. Ian had asked her, "Would you like to come with me on this territorial inspection?" Nerys replied, "Me? In that case, yes, I'd like to." Ian smiled gently. "Of course. Besides, it'll be very helpful for you. I arranged for us to visit Riel on the last day, and this time we'll also stop by Catlerwy. Would you like to look around there?" She lowered her head. "Ah, if that's the case, then I..." Returning to the present, Ian called to her, "Nerys." He turned to her with a smile and said, "While I'm away, if you need anything, just tell Norman at any time. Norman will prepare it for you at once." Ian stepped closer and took Nerys' hand. "So while I'm gone, I hope you'll live well. I'm already looking forward to the day I see you again." Blushing, Nerys smiled brightly and replied, "Yes. Please travel safely, Your Grace." Seeing the two of them holding hands, Catherine's face darkened, and she frowned in irritation. The carriage then departed. Nerys waved, her cheeks still flushed, and thought, "For now, I'll have to spend my days without Ian. I already feel lonely." Catherine folded her arms and asked, "Nerys, are you busy today?" If you're free, come to the greenhouse garden later. I have a few things I want to discuss with you seriously. Nerys frowned inwardly. It seems like she's plotting something again. Is she going to come after me like before? Or try to tie me to another man? Whatever it is, I just hope it won't harm my relationship with Ian. If she really is thinking that, then this time I won't let it slide. Nerys replied, yes. If I have time later, I'll come by. Then anxiety welled up in her again. I'm begging you, sister, please don't make a worse choice than before. Whatever it is, please no more. Please don't do this. An image of her leaning her head against the wall flashed through her mind. A voice rang out. Oh my, so you've arrived? Nerys' face darkened. We were just talking about you. The same crystal orb was still displayed on the table. Catherine said, shouldn't everyone here know what illness you're suffering from? Standing behind her were Norman and January. Neither of them looked at ease. Catherine continued, that way they'll be able to keep an eye on you and care for you properly. Norman shut his eyes tightly in confusion, while Jan had gone silent, her face ashen. Catherine spoke again. After all, it's to protect you from the soul-devouring curse you're afflicted with. Nerys stood frozen in place, her expression dark, with a trace of fear on her face.